welcome back. This and each and every episode of the Hook It podcast is once again supported by 35 Bikes. 35 Bikes are dedicated to bringing you the best bike components for the best prices. So if it's brake pads that don't break the bank, mud guards, brake rotors or whatever, head to 35bikes.com, enter promo code podcast and you can take advantage of 20% off your entire order, and you'll also get free shipping too. What's not to love? 35bikes.com, promo code podcast. We are also supported by our good friends over at Sax Underwear. If there's one thing you do every day, it's to put on a pair of undies, hopefully. If not, you're a savage. You shouldn't be listening to this podcast. You should be out killing people or whatever. So basically, Sax make the best underwear on planet Earth. They're all ergonomically fitted, feature moisture wicking capabilities, and most importantly, have their patented ballpark pouch. That does exactly what it says on the tin. It keeps your nuts in a little hammock, and it stops them from chafing, and it's a game changer. If you've never worn these things before, head to saxunderwear.com, and on there you can find your local stockist. It's that simple. saxunderwear.com, and tell them we sent you. All right, let's get on with this podcast.
Hi, I'm Ollie Wilkins, and this is the Hook It podcast. Hold tight, freshers. Okay.
Somebody's gonna hurt someone before the night is through. Somebody's gonna come undone. There's nothing we can do. Everybody wants to touch somebody. If it takes all night, everybody wants to take a little chance. Make it come out right. There's gonna be a heartache tonight, a heartache tonight, I know. There's gonna be a heartache tonight, a heartache tonight, I know. Lord, I know.
What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Hook It podcast. This is episode number 39, and today we have Chris from Downtime podcast on the show. Before I do that, before we start the podcast, I want to say a quick thank you again to everyone who supports the podcast. If you're a new listener, then welcome. If you've been around for a while, then obviously thank you. Thanks a bunch for the support. By the time this episode is released, the Christmas hamper will have been drawn. So if you entered that, then hopefully you've won. Again, huge thanks. The engagement was awesome. I think a couple of hundred comments, 500 odd likes on a post which wasn't promoted or anything. So that's rad. Thank you very much, and best of luck to everyone if you have entered. So obviously this episode is with Chris from Downtime. Since we recorded this yesterday, I've picked up a bit of a throat infection, so I'm going to keep this intro nice and short. Hopefully you guys enjoy. It's a little bit more, I guess, about Chris and also about myself and the reasons that I started the podcast and all that sort of goodness. So hopefully it's not too boring, but I enjoyed doing it anyway. It's cool to sit and have a chat with Chris. We should have done it a long time ago. Hopefully we're going to do some more. So yeah, here you go. Without further ado, let's welcome Chris Hall to the show.
Let's do it.
Right, we're recording.
How should we do an intro?
I don't know. How do you do an intro when it's going to go on both podcasts?
Chris, welcome to the Hook It podcast.
Cheers, man. Davy, welcome to the Downtime podcast.
Thank you, dude. Appreciate it.
Now, I'm going to correct. Is it Davy or is it Davy? Because I've heard both versions of that.
Yeah, okay. So it is Davy.
Right.
So David without the D.
Yeah.
I hate the name Dave. I've always hated it. Everyone's called Dave. Like, everyone knows a Dave. David's a bit geeky. So I figured I'd drop the D off the end. When I was about 15, I've done it by default now too, so it's official.
Oh, right. So you were born David, right?
Yeah. And then, got rid of the D, did it officially, and people seem to remember it a little bit more. But my mate Jordan started calling me Davy.
Right.
and it's stuck with a few people who don't know what to call me. So.
Fair enough. So we can sort of use both. When I forget,
Yeah, I
use the
don't
wrong
mind.
one.
I don't
Okay.
mind. It's better than a few things people call me.
Nice.
But yeah,
stuff.
dude, this is rad. Like, we should have done this ages ago.
I know, this all podcasts should be recorded like this.
Yeah,
Do you
they
want to
should. Yeah.
explain where we are?
Yeah, so we're in a sauna, surrounded by Russian girls.
Hang on a minute. You're on a different
Chris
show.
is naked, and I've decided to keep my clothes on. It's not awkward.
But other than that, it's pretty standard.
Other than that, it's pretty standard.
Nice.
We're in a cool pub in Leeds.
Yeah, nice.
It's 3 PM.
Yeah, it's Monday,
It's Monday,
but it's Christmas, right?
Christmas, so we've got a beer too, which is cool.
Yeah.
Can't beat a bit of day drinking sometimes, can you? Drive home could be fun, but no, we're good.
Nice.
It's mad. Really cool. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad we finally found the time to sit and do this.
Yeah, because we met at Fort William,
yeah.
right? You were running the Saks underwear stand.
Yeah, I was up there doing the sax thing at Fort Bill, which was cool. That whole weekend was cool, actually, because I sort of said on the podcast before, you know, if anyone's heading up, come over and say hello. And loads of people came over, actually. And it was, I don't know if you've met any of your listeners before, but it's always like, I don't know, it's really cool, but it's kind of weird when people say they listen. And you're like, oh, like, kind of takes you off guard a little bit.
Yeah, I've not had that experience yet. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
some friends of mine that listen, but I've not been in a place where anyone's
Really?
known what I look like or that I'm there. So
Yeah, it's happened a few times. Obviously at Fort William, because I told people to come and say hello. So it's really nice that a bunch of people came over, and I met some awesome people actually up there, and I've met a few of them since as well at other events and stuff. This is rad. Like, we should have done this ages ago. We should have just sat down and just done a podcast. This is the way it should be done, I think.
yeah, it's definitely better to do it in person for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. I've done a few in person now.
Okay.
I'd like to do more like that. It's not always very easy to do,
Right.
with people being scattered around the world or around the
Yeah,
country.
for sure.
But yeah, it's nice.
It is.
Look someone in the eyes and have a proper chat.
Yeah.
So it should be.
Yeah, I can't remember which episode it was. Maybe the third one that I did. It might have even been the second one. I did with Nick Hamilton from Ride Sheffield.
Oh, yeah.
And Adela
And
Carter.
yeah.
And we did it at the Sheffield Uni, and I still don't really know what I was doing. Still don't know what I'm doing, but I really didn't know what I was doing then. So I only had 2 mics, both really shit ones from Matalan. What's it called? Not Matalan. Maplin. Yeah, that's it. Matalan. May as well be from Matalan. So, and then I split these 2 mics across the table.
It was a good episode, though. I listened to it.
Really?
I listened to it in the car on the way in
Right,
from work.
okay.
And I'm pretty interested in the training side of things. I
Yeah.
know those guys are doing some really good stuff with Blue Steel.
Yeah.
And but yeah, every time Nick spoke, I was having to turn the audio up, and then like when it was someone else, like, whoa, wind it back
I
down.
can imagine
again.
people sat in the cars with the like steering wheel controls, like up, and down again. Oh god, it was terrible. So I did that one, and then I did Joe Bowman from Steel City Media.
Yeah,
We did
yeah.
that in person, and
Yeah.
that I think was a little bit better. But I don't think I listened back to that one. I think I was too scared. I just pressed upload and let it do its thing. I didn't want to know about it.
You're not a fan of listening back to yours.
No.
No.
I sort of like go through little bits of it just to not sound check it, but just check it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
make sure there's no distortion and stuff. But no, I don't listen back at all. Like, I've got a bit of a policy of no editing. No sort of fanning around with it at all. Just poof,
Yeah.
done. Whatever's said. I do at the end of it always say, if there's anything you've said, let me know and I'll take it out, because you don't want anyone, getting in trouble and raw. How about
Nice.
you? Do you?
I don't do much editing, really, just to clean anything up if there was if the Skype call cut out or anything like that. And again, I'm not in the process of trying to stitch people up. So
No, not
if
at
any
all.
guests want anything cut out, then I'll go and take that out if they've given something away they shouldn't, or
Yeah.
whatever it happens to be. Although I don't think that's actually happened yet. I can't think of anything.
No, I can't think of anything either that I've had to actually, really edit. I had a bit of an issue with one of them with the guys from Pinned, where I just got loads of distortion, but I ended up recording that in a hotel somewhere. The Wi-Fi was terrible, and so that one's like half an hour longer than what it actually is, because it was just all crackling
right.
in the background.
Yeah.
So luckily I sound checked that one.
Yeah.
But for the most part, just whatever. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
I listen back the day that it goes out.
Yeah.
I've been listening to it on the way to work in the car, just to kind of see what it's like with a bit of distance from it. Because when
Yeah.
I record it, I'm always, I'm super critical of myself, I guess.
Okay.
So I'm always like, oh, that could have been better, or that didn't go that well. And then normally when I listen to it back, I'm like, actually, that's all right.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff in there. I'd forgotten that.
No, yeah, you're right. No, like I said, I don't really. But when I have done, you do think, oh, I forgot that guy said that. That's really interesting and whatever. Yeah, I like I said, it's just a quick sound check for me, like, and then just boom, done.
Yeah.
Obviously, really, really need to improve the sound quality. So no doubt people listening to this will be stoked because the sound quality is going to be good.
But that's the thing; it's a lot easier in person,
Yeah,
right? So the
yeah,
last two that I've done have been in person,
Right.
and you can control it, right? You're not relying on the internet.
No,
And you're not
exactly.
relying on Skype. So I think it's tricky because it's a balance, right? Do you accept that the call quality might not be amazing, but you get this guest that lives on the other side of the planet?
Yep.
Or do you just interview people that live 20 miles from your house and like guarantee that it's going to sound good? So
You're kind of limited to who you can have on.
yeah, I mean, we're lucky, right? We live in Yorkshire. There's some good riders and there's some cool people around, but
True.
I don't know. I don't want to be limited by
No,
all
I
that.
agree actually. And it's weird because sometimes when you record through the Skype software, and do you use Ecamm?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can call
Okay, so
recorder,
sometimes you get them and they're absolutely crystal clear, like perfect, and it obviously really makes a difference if the person at the other end has got a microphone and again, I had some issues with that. I think that might have been the second episode that Cy Patton or Peyton, I can't remember what he likes to be called, I always forget, came on the show, and I said, "Oh, have you got headphones in?" He's like, "Yeah," but he hadn't. And then there was a massive delay all the way through it, and it sounds awful. So for anyone who wants to listen to how not to do a podcast, episode 2, it's pretty much what you do.
my worst sound quality was with like one of the guests that I really wanted to have on from the start, is Tiny Seagrave.
Right.
Like I'm a big fan, and like I could see she had a win in her, like, and obviously it came this year, and it had been pretty hard to get her on. So I'd had Chris Kilmurray, and he's a trainer, so there's a little bit of a kind of line in there. And in the end, it was Geordie from Fox.
Right.
I happened to message Geordie to tell him about how his podcast was going. And he was on test in Portugal with Tiny. And I was like, I'll give her a nudge and tell her to come on the podcast. And so he did, and she was up for it.
Oh, awesome.
So we managed to schedule something. And whether it was my end or Mid Wales Wi-Fi, I don't know, but
Probably
it
Mid Wales
wasn't
Wi-Fi.
great. And I was distraught because it was like I really wanted that to be.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, it is. I still think it's a good episode, and she's a very interesting person to chat to. But I was just sat there, and like the Skype kept cutting out.
Oh no!
And it was like I could just see it unraveling in front of me. I was like, all this work, and it's not going to work. But managed to clean it up enough, I guess, to get it out there. And I think it's our second most popular episode.
Is it?
So
awesome.
People are putting up with audio quality.
Yeah.
I think, to some extent. I'd like to make it better.
Yeah, I think you have to be, not too critical. At the end of the day, what we're doing, there's no budget behind. I don't know about you, but there's definitely no budget behind what I'm doing.
Definitely not.
So, you have to go with it. It is what it is. It'd be amazing to have the opportunity to fly people in from all over the world, and maybe one day that's achievable, but probably not, let's be honest. So, for me, being able to have pretty much anyone on from around the world and use that Skype and the Ecamm thing is awesome. Like it's a huge advantage. It'd be
for sure.
pretty much impossible if not. Long-term wise, because I've been thinking about this a lot, like long-term wise, I want to have something where people can come and hang out and like have a bit of a studio, and like that's a long way down the road, don't get me wrong. Probably would never happen, but I'm pretty sure at some point we'll be able to segregate some section of our office into being a studio, but getting guests there is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah,
but
that's the thing.
Kind of the...
But I mean, it depends who you want to speak to, I guess.
Yeah.
And most people from the circuit, certainly from the race side of things, tend to end up in the UK at some point.
Definitely.
But I mean, one of the things, I don't know if you found this, but one of the things that surprised me, I guess, is quite how busy these athletes are.
Definitely.
Because it's not just like, I've got to go to the gym and ride my bike. Like, there is a lot of work that goes behind being an athlete at that level.
100%.
So finding, I was like, surely an hour of their time, that'd be easy, right?
Yeah.
But it's not that straightforward.
Sometimes
is
it's
it?
pretty tough,
Yeah.
And obviously they're in different parts of the world, different Wi-Fi. Sometimes it's terrible. Yeah, it's not as easy as some people might think. Like to get people on the show. Like I've definitely had breaks. Where I've not put an episode out for 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
Simply because I couldn't find anybody. And I think especially in the early days, people didn't necessarily know what even a podcast was, even going back a year and a half, 2 years,
Yeah, for sure.
hadn't really heard of it. And it's only when it started to grow that we've had some bigger names on that either they've heard it or they heard of it and they're kind of down. You know, it's like, oh, well, those guys have done it. Why not?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, but yeah, definitely in the early, you know, when I first started, I kind of just wanted to have friends on. That was my goal. And we can get into that a little bit if you want. I mean, about like how it started and stuff. But, you know, it was all about having people from the local area. Like started off with Si from Cossack, obviously.
Yeah.
Just as a bit of a pilot / test. And I'm pretty sure it's still the most downloaded episode ever, which is crazy.
It was awesome.
But,
no, I remember hearing it. And I was like, because I know Si went to uni with Si. And I was like, oh, mountain bike podcast. And that started the cogs turning for me.
Yeah.
Because I'd never really, I'd listened to podcasts, I don't know, 7-8 years ago when they sort of first came around.
Yeah.
And I got into it a little bit, but it never really fitted in my life. I guess it didn't make sense at the time. So yeah, kind of forgot about podcasts. And then I saw that, I guess Si must have put it up on the Cossack website.
Yeah.
I saw it. I was like, oh, I'll have a listen. I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I kind of, I know that story, but to hear it told in like...
Yeah, from the horse's mouth almost as well. Like,
It was really good. And I was like, okay, interesting. And then I started getting back into podcasts in general, I guess, as well as listening to yours.
Yeah.
And that was kind of, okay, if we're getting into the how did we get started.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, go on. So how did the idea come about for you then?
Wow.
Let's tell people about Hook It a bit, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so, do a little bit of the backstory first, I guess. Before Hook It, I had another business selling camper vans. So without going on too much of a tangent...
we haven't even talked about moto yet.
No, oh man. That's another episode. So without going on too much of a tangent, I had a business selling camper vans, and what we used to do, we used to basically build race cruisers, which were for speedway, motocross, mountain biking, stuff like that. So I had a factory which was based in Poland, but most of our business was actually done in Sweden and Norway. So I was on this epic driving triangle for 4 years of my life, which was to drive from England to Poland, pick up a van, deliver it in Sweden, drive back from Sweden to Poland, you know, probably go from there to Norway. And it was 4 years of rarely being at home and constant driving. Don't get me wrong, it was an awesome time. You know, me and my cousin, we started the business with nothing, you know, a small investment, and it grew to something quite substantial. So in between all of the driving, rather than listen to awful radio, I just used to listen to podcasts. So, you know, I'm a massive fan of Joe Rogan, Fighter and the Kid, Church of What's Happening Now with Joey Diaz, all that sort of stuff. So I just used to do that. Like, that was my thing. I'd be driving for 26 hours, whatever, you know, in the day, and I'd just listen to podcasts. So anyway, had this idea in the back of my head about a mountain bike one, because you couldn't really find anything. At the time, I was riding mountain bikes, I guess, quite a lot and whatnot. So fast forward, got out of that business. Kind of a lucky escape in some respects. It was a terrible, terrible breakup of a business, but that's by the by. Started Hook It. Now, Hook It obviously is a distribution company. We distribute Joystick, a bit of a plug. Joystick, 35 Bikes, which is our brand, Sensor Scripts, Ninja's Gloves, All Mountain Style. And then, I've always wanted to start a distribution company, so almost like starting a dream job, dream company anyway. Now, I guess the big picture of it is, you know, we're not a huge company and we're very limited with what we can do with marketing. So it was in the back of my mind the whole podcast thing. Before doing the podcast, I had an idea to try and market the business by trying to attempt to do the world's longest jump on a mountain bike.
Why not?
Yeah. So that was the first idea of like trying to like springboard the business a little bit and, you know, get people to recognize it.
Yeah.
That didn't happen, although it got pretty close. Got, you know, Rocky Mountain were going to sponsor me and like, it was crazy. Awesome. So that was the plan.
Why didn't that happen?
I don't know, you know, like we just got busy with the business.
Right.
You know, I was busy personally running around, you know, I look after the majority of the sales for Hook It. So I was busy, and it just, you know, I had a location sorted. I got the guy to do all the stunt work. Everything was in place, and it might still happen. It's still something that's on my to-do list, you know, of trying to attempt to break the world record for the longest jump on a mountain bike.
Do you know what the world record is? How long
I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's not that big because some of the people that have done it, it's not an official Guinness World Record. So it's a bit of a loophole, right? So I was like, it's not too bad. It's probably achievable. Obviously all my friends and stuff were saying I was stupid and stuff, but so that was kind of an idea. And then this whole podcast idea was in the back of my mind of just something we could do just to get people to understand Hook It and what it was and whatnot. So that's kind of how it came around. I kind of did a few searches on iTunes, couldn't really find a mountain bike podcast at the time. Ryan Leach did something a few years ago. But that was the only thing which really came up. So I was like, I just sort of like thought about it for a few years, to be honest. And then just thought, see what I need to do. A few YouTube videos watched and, this looks pretty easy. Speak to Si from Kotick. He was down. And just, started there really. So it was always going to be run as a bit of a, maybe do it once a month or whatever, just as and when with friends and whatnot. And then I think when I saw the response from Size, I was like, maybe there's some legs to this. So just carried on. And obviously it's taken over, it's got it's a whole entity now. It's like separate social media. Obviously it's not run as a business at all. There's no money exchange in hands or anything like that. But that's kind of how it came around.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's it. I think.
And how long was it? It's nearly 2 years. Was it over 2 years?
I think it's just coming up to 2 years, maybe, or maybe. I don't know.
No, hang on a minute.
I don't know. Maybe a year and a half.
Yeah, I was going to say maybe more
Probably
like that.
about a year and a half. Yeah, I can't quite. I know it was summer when I first did it, so it must have been about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I honestly can't remember, to be honest. It's about a year and a half, and that's it. Like it's just sort of organically done its thing.
Yeah, because when you started off, it like you say, it was kind of mates from the Sheffield area.
Yeah, friends, like literally all the way up to about episode, I don't know, 8, maybe a little bit more than that. We're just friends. People like either it was a sponsored rider that we had, it was just a friend, someone like Cy Patton, a mate. Ty Woofenden randomly had him on, who's Speedway world champion at the time, just a mate, like, will you do this? And he was like, yeah, cool, whatever.
Sweet.
I didn't want to go down I did want to go down the mountain bike route, but I kind of just wanted to have like mates on and you know what I mean? So that's kind of how it started, dude. Like, it's crazy thinking back.
Who was the first guest that wasn't a mate?
I'd have to have a look. I consider them all friends now.
Yeah.
But man, off the top of my head, it'd probably be Danny Hart.
Okay, yeah, because he was listening to the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Did he got in touch with you?
Yeah.
Or? Yeah.
Which was really, really... Because again, I don't think I kind of quite grasped what was happening yet. So Danny reached out and was like, can I come on? And I was like, what? Yeah, of course you can.
Just one world
we'll do it now if you
right?
want. So yeah, Danny came on, and I think that was kind of like the springboard for the whole thing in a way.
Yeah.
Again, you've probably noticed yourself, you kind of don't realise how much of an effect these people can have when they've got a big social media base. And they can come on and speak as well as Danny did. Maybe there were a few people who didn't know Danny, and he's a bloody smart young lad. Obviously, just taken over Descent Bike Park too, so it's perfect time for him to come on. Plug that a little bit, and have a story. Yeah, exactly, have a story to tell. So, Danny was the springboard really for the whole thing.
Yeah,
and then from then, sort of I think a lot of it is kind of like it's not what you know, it's who you know. And people have just sort of kept coming forward, really,
nice.
Which is nice. Like, there's been a few breaks, obviously, where I've been struggling with people, scheduling issues and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just, talking to people. They put someone forward and just go with it. I'm kind of open to have anybody on as well, to be honest with you. To an extent, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Pretty open to have anybody on. I'm definitely not out there just searching for the biggest, best names because, although that's really nice, a lot of people who maybe aren't as well known have got a great story to tell,
For sure. Yeah, that's often the best bit is finding someone that you didn't know a huge amount about, and suddenly they come out with this story and you're like, whoa, like
for sure.
That you didn't even know it, hadn't heard that.
And that's
before.
what I love about podcasts too. I think I've always been a massive fan of Joe Rogan. I've learned a lot from Joe Rogan, hell of a lot. And you see a new podcast in the morning before I start off driving. I've usually no idea who this person is, but click it and you can learn so much from them. And you've never even heard of these people. So I kind of want to do that, but with mountain biking in a way, like just people that might not necessarily spring to mind.
And I guess that the tricky bit is how do you find them, because you don't necessarily. if you don't know them, you don't know them, right?
Yeah,
So how do
exactly,
you unearth these amazing storytellers?
Yeah.
That's what I've been trying to get my head around recently is like, who are the people out there with really interesting, amazing stories, and how do I find them?
Yeah, true.
And that's quite a challenge,
I
really.
think your following is always really handy too. So they'll put people forward and this person's got a great story. They'd be great on the podcast. Next thing you know, you sat there and you're about to record something with them. I think that's cool. The engagement side of it is amazing. Like it's phenomenal.
It caught, that whole side of it totally caught me by surprise.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I did expect, but I wasn't really expecting anything, I suppose.
Yeah.
So when people like actually do seem to care about it and want to ask questions or want to say thank you or whatever it happens to be, so it's pretty mind blowing. Like every single time a message comes in, and don't get me wrong, there's not like hundreds in my inbox, but there's a decent amount. And it's nice. Like it's kept me going through some of the tougher times with it. It's made me think, there is a point to doing this. Like it is just more than me having a chat with some people that interest me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
It's been
Tell
nice.
me about your background though and how you came to do this podcast. Like,
Well, So like I said, I listened to podcasts a while back, like Generation 1, if you want to call it that. I don't know. And then podcasts sort of started making a comeback in my life anyway. And a friend of mine put me onto Tim Ferriss podcast.
Oh, awesome.
And so I'm a big fan of Ferriss.
Yeah.
And he has some super interesting guests on. Like, I guess it's not, I was going to say it's more business related, but it's not really. Like all kind of walks of life. And he tries and extracts like hints and tips and, tries to work out how
I
these
can
amazing
see that
people
now
are
with
doing
what you're doing more. Like,
Yeah,
I can totally see that.
There's an inspiration from Ferriss,
Right.
in it, definitely. So I was listening to that, and yours was in there, and a couple of other bits and bobs, and I was sort of thinking, like, I really like this mountain bike podcast vibe. Like, I think I could do this. Like, it could be interesting, and I've always sort of read, magazine articles and stuff on the web, and thought, it's really interesting, but like I want to ask more. I always want to ask more questions. It leaves me wanting more. So I was like, well, what if I can just speak to these people, then I can ask the questions I want to ask. And anyway, I was like, I'm being an idiot, just dreaming. Don't worry about that. And I mentioned it to a mate. I think this was probably early October last year. We were up riding in Leitham for the weekend, group of mates, and said, I've sort of been listening to your podcast, been listening to other bits, and I was kind of thinking about doing something. And he was like, well, do it then, crack on. Like, what are you messing around with? Anyway, so that got me thinking, and I was sort of, I started looking at what would it take, how would I do it? And then I think Vital started theirs.
Okay.
And I discovered the Descent World podcast,
Yeah.
which was going at the time, which was really good.
Yeah, it was.
And I was like, maybe these boys have all got it on. Like, there's enough now. There's not space. I won't bother. So I sort of sacked it off, I guess. And then I was up at a mate's house over New Year's last New Year's. And Si from Collab was there. Another mate, John Firth, who's head of marketing for O'Neill Clothing. So he looks after Greg Minnar. And we were just, chewing the fat, having a few beers. And said, I'd thought about doing this podcast, but there's other stuff around now. And I don't think there's space anymore. And they were like, nah, you're doing it. Like, get on with it. So I was like, I'll help you with anything you need.
Yeah.
And John was like, I can get you Greg on. Like, no dramas. We'll sort that out. And at that point, it's like, well, you've got support from two really good mates. Someone's telling you they're going to get the most successful mountain biker in the world ever on. And you're like,
That's definitely a kickstart, isn't it?
Yeah, how can I not do this? So I was over the winter, I guess, like got up 1st of January or whatever and started looking into it, worked out what I needed, got a mic off eBay, not from Matalan. Got a mic worked out, a few of the bits. So I'm an engineer by training, I guess, and I've done it.
Right.
I was a noise and vibration specialist.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I've got no excuse for bad audio, and I do have it. But so I knew understood a little bit about the audio side of things, I guess. It's kind of transferable. So sussed out how to do it and worked out what it would cost, and it wasn't like a huge amount of money to get started. So I got stuck in, and then it was Mr. Minar's busy, right? So it's kind of harder than it sounded to get him on the podcast, although we did eventually. So the quest was to get guests, I guess.
Right.
And I nearly gave up on multiple occasions.
Right.
Just because it was really hard. Like you've got I'm not in the industry. I've got a couple of friends in the industry, but I'm not. I used to work in a bike shop, but other than that, and like I wasn't getting responses from anyone, and it's hard to get contact details for people.
Definitely.
And I was like, and I was getting pretty close to sacking it off, and then I got in touch with Chris Kilmurray from Point One Athletic, trains Tani and Win Masters and FMD Racing and all that lot. And he was up for it straight away. Super interesting guy.
Right.
Thinks at a million miles an hour. Not the easiest person necessarily to interview, but he was my first ever guest. So that was cool. That kind of got us off the ground. And in parallel to that, I'd email just by random chance. I was like, well, who can I get in contact with? So I dug out, found a contact on Martin Whiteley's website. And I was like, I'll just put something in. I'm doing this podcast. I'd love to get either you or some of your athletes on, get in touch kind of thing. And I know, he's contact form on a website. I don't expect to hear anything back. And he emailed back in like half an hour.
No way.
It was like, yeah, who do you want? And I was like, well, okay, hang on a minute. I wasn't expecting that. So I said, well, your rider's better than me. Like, who do you think would be good? So I said, well, Nico Mullally and Justin Leov sent me their email addresses and said, tell them I sent you.
That's awesome.
And away you go. So yeah, like I owe Martin Whiteley a beer or two.
Yeah, you do. Sounds like it. That's cool, man.
I met him at Fort William. Had a brief chat to say thank you. Like super nice guy. But yeah, he effectively kind of put me in touch with those guys and got in touch with Bex Barrett Honor, who was a privateer at the time, so maybe a little bit easier to get in touch with.
Okay.
And those were like the first 4 guests, I think. And then you start building a bit of momentum and you ask like the last guest, who else should I have on? And
it's a
who
big
would
thing
be good?
as well. Yeah, for sure.
And they recommend people. And now, still, not everyone's heard of us, but some people have, and it's a lot easier.
I think I always think about that, but it is what it is, isn't it? I think people find you when they want to find you. I wouldn't say, oh man, I don't want to sound like a dick here, but I wouldn't say gave up pushing it, but it's like people will find you when they find you.
Yeah.
We've got this added benefit of we can use social media to sort of like boost audience. Maybe you don't know. Does it translate into listeners? It doesn't. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I guess
I'm
it
not
must
sure
do to
either.
some extent, but how tied in?
Yeah, I'm not too sure either, if I'm honest. But it's a massive help, and I've found it. You can reach out to certain athletes through social media. Yes, if you've got a busy profile, they're probably not going to see it. Or if they are, they're probably going to go, yeah, whatever, dude. But
you got to try that, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure.
And I've been super impressed in general with how nice everyone's been. Like I'm not part of the industry. I'm coming from outside, and I went to Fort William with the objective of watching a bit of racing. I got a press pass, which felt really weird.
Awesome.
So like, how am I getting away with this? But I was like, all right, I love that. So that was cool. And then just literally like cruise around all weekend, kind of introducing myself to people, which is pretty uncomfortable. I'm not that sort of person, but everyone was dead friendly. Like kind of took me in and had a good chat. And yeah, I got a lot of contacts, I guess, from that weekend to get guests on and stuff. Like Mick Hanna, I met that weekend. And, people like that. So it's been, people are pretty friendly. Like I think if you can get in their inbox and get read, generally they're cool with it. Yeah,
for sure. And I think for a lot of them, it's just a new avenue to go down. I think I'm still quite surprised that there's not more of them, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah, for sure.
I think about this a lot actually. The way I see the mountain bike side of the podcast going is we haven't really had like a pro athlete start one yet. Now, I'm a big Rogan fan, and you look at, UFC, and I'm not a massive UFC fan, although I know quite a lot about it just from listening to his podcasts. All these athletes are starting their own podcasts, and that's kind of how I see mountain biking going.
Yeah. And
I think doing projects like this, where we just sit and chat together, is awesome. Should it happen more often? We should share guests to some extent too, because if an athlete's got something to promote, you look at, again, and I don't mean to keep using Rogan as an example, right? But like, you look at if a comedian's got a new comedy special coming out, they're on Rogan, they then go on like The Fighter and the Kid, they'll go on Joey Diaz's podcast, and there's like all these podcasts that they just do.
Yeah, in the same
and
way
I'd
that
love
you
that
do.
to be happening with mountain biking. Like, how cool is that? There's a new film coming out, let's say, I don't know, Brendan releases another Death Grip, to go and do all those podcasts and the amount of reach you could get from that. is pretty cool. Like, it's pretty staggering, I think.
Yeah. I think it's growing, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
I
for
don't.
sure.
It's definitely not anywhere near where it's going to.
I don't think we're anywhere near the tip of it at
No.
all. I think it is literally, just getting going. Well, I'd like to think so anyway. If this is the tip, then we're up shit creek, aren't we?
If it's not going any further,
we'll probably
then
sack this
screwed.
off. But, that's the way I see it going. And that's what I'd like to happen is more, I always say, when I had Josh Lewis on, I'm like, dude, you guys should start a podcast.
Mate,
there
that
should
would
be a
be-
50 to 1 podcast.
That would be so good.
It'd be so good. People
Yeah.
would love it. You and Rat Boy, even if it's just them two sat chatting, that would be cool. Like,
Yeah.
I would not miss an episode of that.
But they did a little video, didn't they, when Rat
Yeah,
quit downhill?
perfect.
And
Sat
it was
on a boat,
awesome.
yeah,
it's
just
nice.
chilling. That's perfect. And
Yeah.
the same with Brett Tippy. I mean, I've sent him about 10 text messages since we did our podcast. I'm like, dude, you are doing a podcast because you would be amazing at it.
There you go.
So, and I think the more of that starts happening, the bigger it becomes, obviously.
Yeah.
And that's what I'd like to see happen personally.
Yeah.
I don't personally get buttered at all when you see another podcast start up. It's like, great. The more people listen to that, the more people listen to mine, yours. It's
I
cool.
think there's plenty
Really
of room
cool.
for it. Like, people choose the content they want to listen to or read or
Yeah.
watch. So
Yeah.
if they don't want it, then that's
If you don't want
cool.
to listen, don't listen. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah. There's half the audience just tuned out.
Yeah, exactly. But it's true, though, and I think that's something that you can overthink as well when you're doing this, of trying to please everybody. It
Yeah.
probably isn't going to. We've had some negative iTunes reviews, which you can take personally. There's been a few negative comments online, but it is what it is,
I
man.
know. I
Like,
think you're right. You can get too hung up in it, right?
I just don't look anymore. It's that
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
Like, do what you do and just keep doing it. It sounds like for the same reasons as you. I just love talking to these people. A lot of them were friends initially, but as it's grown, I'm just curious about people, and I just love having conversations. And I think it's almost a lost art. I know this is kind of deep, but as we're going down this whole technological thing with Facebook and Insta and all that stuff, like the art of just sitting having a conversation with people, even if it is over Skype, it's awesome. Like,
Yeah, you're right.
You turn your phone off
Yeah.
and you just sit and have a chat.
Yeah, and the podcast does kind of force you
It
to do
forces
that.
you to do that.
Yeah, because you're
You know.
recording it. Your phone
there's
should
no
be off
distractions.
and
I know we were talking about this before we started, but like, I don't really do much planning. I'm just happy just to hit record and just see what comes out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's kind of what I enjoy doing. I'm not a massive. I'm not very smart, so I'm not very good at researching anyway. Kind of end up looking at other stuff.
To be fair though, with a lot of the guests, like unless it's a big name, there's not that much out there anyway, right? So you kind of
true.
You've got to be
It's
a
very true.
little bit off the
Kind
cuff
of got to
with it.
improv anyway.
Yeah, and I think that's where
Yeah.
I definitely was. I was very planned in the early days
Yeah.
of it because I was scared of it. I think.
What's the
Like,
worst one then? What have you planned one and it's just gone horrible?
I wouldn't say anything's gone horrible, but certainly in the earlier episodes, I was so focused on where I was heading
Right.
that I wasn't listening to what the guest was saying.
Yeah.
And that's criminal, right?
Yeah, it is.
Like you miss the
Awful, isn't it?
opportunity to ask brilliant questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what I've tried to back away from a little bit. I remember listening to something with, I think it was a Ferris podcast with Cal Fussman, who used to write for Esquire magazine,
Okay.
I think, like really amazing journalist and one of the best storytellers in the world. Like if you get time, have a listen to his
Right.
podcast. Really good. And he was saying he used to do his research, create his list of questions, whatever it happens to be. And then just before he went through the door to do the interview, he'd screw it up and throw it away.
Right.
So
Wow.
he knew kind of,
It's
he
in
had
there,
his
yeah.
thoughts, but he didn't want it in front
a
of him.
great idea.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
That's
isn't it?
great.
So
I'm into that.
I'm not quite that brave. Well, I haven't got any questions today.
No.
But, I feel I'm getting closer to that. And I think that hopefully that starts to come across in the podcast that it feels a bit more, has
Organic.
a bit more flow, a bit more organic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still want to get good stuff out of the guests. And I guess one thing that I've tried to do, when I started off, I was like, right, I'm going to do hour and a half episodes.
Yeah.
All my mates were like, you're crazy now, I don't listen to that. And I was like, well, I'm happy to listen to a 3-hour podcast.
I love it. Yeah.
And
Bring
that's
it.
what I like about yours. It's like Mad Dog, right? How long
Yeah.
was that? 2 and a bit hours or
Could
something?
have gone on forever.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I was convinced by them to keep it short. And I still don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think a lot of people like that it's sort of commute sized
Yeah.
and you can get through it in one hit. But
again, something I think about quite a lot. Now, I'm a bit of an anomaly with podcasting because I drive so much.
right.
You know, I'll be in the car today probably 6 hours. So I can bang out a 3 hour. If there's a Rogan podcast in the morning that's 3 hours, I'm stoked because that's probably as far as I'm going to drive that morning, and then I'll catch everything else up that afternoon. So, you know, I mean, honestly, I don't listen to the radio at all. Like, I don't even. It's never even been on in my van.
Yeah.
I just listen to podcast stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. Like the longer the better. I'm happy to listen to anything. I just love it as it's just free flowing. Like I don't really care.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that, you know, I'll call in and see bike shops and they're like, oh, I've not listened to that one yet. Not had time. And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean you don't have time?
But it's that same thing that you don't have time for a conversation with your mates anymore.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
You can make time, right?
Yeah, you can, I
and,
think.
And we've had people that are like, oh yeah, I listened to that while I was cleaning the car, or, you know, I listened while I'm making dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like you can just chuck on a set of headphones or stick the stereo on in the house and listen to something that you want to listen to rather than the radio or some rubbish on the TV. So
yeah, my girlfriend hates me for it because I literally listen to stuff all the time. Like I'm horrible. It's like all day I will listen to stuff, and then I'll get home, and if I go to the gym or whatever, I have a podcast on. Then I'll cook dinner. Yep, podcast on, and then I'll listen to something to go to sleep every night because I can't sleep now unless I listen to something, which is horrible. Not good for your relationship.
You're not listening to her, then?
No, not at all. I'm like, shut up. Just want to listen to this. It's interesting. So yeah, I've been going on this massive, just trying to learn stuff, man. Like I just love learning stuff, which is weird because as I've got older, I enjoy learning stuff more. I used to hate it. Like I was anti-school, anti-learning really in general. But it's weird that as you get older, you know, podcasts, to be honest, have sort of woke me up a little bit, like to a lot of things. And yeah, now I you know, I'm going through this massive World War I stage at the minute, which is super sad, but like, love it.
That's
cool.
Love it. Well, you can. Well, it's interesting. So you use the phrase "woke me up," and I've said that to a few mates when I started listening to Ferris stuff. I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago. That's the phrase that I've used to describe it. It woke me up.
Really?
Like I was asleep. I wasn't learning.
Yeah.
Wasn't progressing, and I was just kind of cruising through life, and that it woke me up. Like because you can learn about whatever you want.
Yeah. Literally,
whatever it is, there's a podcast.
Yeah.
On, you know, the most mundane stuff or the most ridiculously complicated stuff, wherever you want to go on that spectrum, someone's chatting about it.
Yeah, and on it, like, I got such a massive ribbon for this at work. Like, the guys took the piss out of me so bad for this, it's unbelievable, and they still do. But a podcast, quite literally, oh man, I'm going to get shit for this again. It did change my life, you know. I was in a job, that wasn't even a job, I had a business.
Yeah.
Which at the time was doing really well, like super well. You know, we were two young lads, me and my cousin, you know, 25, 26, selling camper vans to people across Europe. And I was so unhappy, it was ridiculous. You know, I was never at home, I missed all my friends, I wasn't riding bikes, I wasn't doing anything fun. And I listened to a podcast while driving, and it quite literally just made me go, what the hell am I doing? And 2 days after, I got out of the business. And then the day after that, started Hook It.
Good on you, man.
Yeah,
Good
in the space of 4 days.
Yeah.
And it was just that thing that someone saying, if you're not happy, just don't do it. Like money still isn't that important to me.
Yeah.
But I was really chasing it then, at like a strange age to be chasing money when you should just be learning what you want to kind of do with your life. I was just hustling and chasing money, and my outlook on money has changed a hell of a lot since then too, which is, I wouldn't say it's down to podcasting, it probably isn't, but it is in a way because it's taken me on a different life path that I wasn't on before.
Interesting. So this is quite scary because I quit my job a couple of weeks ago.
Oh shit.
And
Did you?
for real. And
full-time podcaster.
Well, full-time unemployed right now. But kind of the same thing. I mean,
do you want to do the GoFundMe page?
Yeah, we'll get the links out.
Slide it in.
Well, no, but like it took me longer than 4 days, but that the start of that awakening was listening to podcasts and realizing that there are other ways of looking at life and other ways of doing stuff.
Yeah.
And like I didn't have a bad job. It wasn't abysmal. It wasn't particularly hard, but it excite me. It didn't float my boat. I don't have any real passion for it.
Yeah.
Some nice people and some interesting bits and pieces, but and I got paid well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just was like, I got back from a riding trip in June or July this summer. Anyway,
Okay.
again up in Scotland, amazing trails. Good few days with the boys. Came back and I was sat at work. I was bored. I was looking out the window. It was sunny, and I can see a hill from my old desk. I was like, oh, I wish I was on my bike. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. How many more days am I going to go through this feeling until I do something about it? And it took me a while. Like, don't get me wrong, it's taken me a while to get my head around it, and I'm still feeling pretty scared.
Okay.
I don't really
do you mind me
know.
asking, do you have kids? And
No. So I'm
Married?
married.
Okay.
My wife's freelance, so her work's kind of up and down. Like it's pretty solid, but it can vary.
Okay.
So we're not. Yeah, I'm not a kept man by any sense of the imagination. But no kids, which is at this stage a good thing because we don't have any dependents.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of risky, I guess, in a way. So I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, January the 1st, I don't know what I'm going to be doing, and
That's cool.
It's scary and it's exciting in equal measure. So
I'm a big proponent of going all in on stuff, like all in. If you're going to do something, like do it. And if you don't enjoy, and I know a lot of people probably say it, and I don't want to sound like I'm preaching at all. I really don't, especially on a platform like this. But you know, if you don't enjoy something, just don't do it. Like life's too short, man. And like, there's so many people that I know that are in dead end jobs that they really hate. And, you know, that probably would, in some respects, look at me and be like, oh, you know, you enjoy what you're doing, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, you make your own luck and you set yourself up how you want to be set up.
yeah,
And don't get me wrong, people do have kids and you can't just, you know, forget about them or a wife or responsibilities. But, you know, you make your own luck, man. And, like, if you don't enjoy what you're doing, just don't do it. And I think I've had that attitude from a very young age. Like, I'll thank my dad for that, actually. My dad's very much, you know, if you don't enjoy it, just don't do it. It's that simple. And there's a lot to be said for that sometimes. People just taking a chance and just being like, you know what, you know, usually the best opportunities will open up for you come January the 1st or whenever it is that you choose. Like something will open up. It always does. It always works out for the best. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent for that. Like, if you're not enjoying it, sack it off, man. Like, why be unhappy or not even unhappy, just bored, you know? We don't know how long we're going to be here, do we? I ain't got a clue. It ends tomorrow, so make sure you're enjoying it, man.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting next year. We'll see where it goes, but I figured do stuff that I like doing, and this is one of those things, and bikes in general.
Saunas are awesome, aren't they?
So this sauna is pretty good, yeah. But so we'll see what happens.
Cool. I like it, man. I like that. That's cool. Have you got anything like in mind or?
Well, not really. No, not really.
Cool.
I want to do more on the podcast. Like, I think there's more to go at. Like you said, there's you know, hundreds and hundreds of people with an interesting story in the mountain bike world.
For sure.
And they're not necessarily just the big names that people have heard of.
Yep.
So I'd like to get closer to the industry and, you know, meet some more of those people and find some more of those stories and get them out there for people. Whether that makes any money or not, I don't know.
Who knows?
That would be interesting. Because at the minute the podcast costs me not a lot, like just a little bit for audio hosting and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, that's okay. We can stomach that for a little while.
Okay.
And beyond that, I don't really know. Like I've got thoughts and ideas, but I think I was chatting to a mate the other day and he was saying it'll take a while for you to sort of flush out the old version of you and like the corporate world and all that.
Right. Okay.
And already, like, I think my mind is working better. Like I feel more creative and more ideas are coming to me on a regular basis. Yeah. I normally just go out on a bike ride. Like if I go out on my own, it's a good way of like de-stressing. Whereas now if I go out on a bike ride on my own, I get creative. My brain starts thinking. And I come up with ideas or, you know, I want to do this with a podcast. Or I want to get this guest on or, you know, whatever it happens to be. So, we'll see. See where it leads. But
interesting.
Yeah.
It's crazy how that, I'm, you know, in some ways the same. I think with what I do, obviously for a job and stuff, I can be quite, I wouldn't say it's creative at all. Yeah, I think, God, hard to say. But like, I think the podcast at the minute that the Hook It one, it's kind of got brakes on it a little bit because it's connected to the business. So there's been
Right.
opportunities arise quite recently that I could have gone down, but it'd mean kind of selling out a little bit. I'm not going to mention any names at all, but like, there's so much more you can do with this platform.
I think so.
And I feel like as well with what I'm doing, like there's so much more I want to do, but I've got brakes on a little bit.
Right. Right.
I think because it's connected to the business, because we work with certain brands and stuff like that. So I think with what you do, you're not connected to anybody. So it should, and I think when you look at the figures and stuff, it's really difficult for brands in general to get the sort of reach that you can offer already. I mean, like,
yeah.
And that's something that I'm definitely proud of, but it does have breaks on it a little bit.
Interesting.
As to what I can do.
Yeah, I'd never really thought about that.
Yeah, and that's kind of why the whole thing with the Trailcast, which still is going to happen, I think.
I saw this. Tell us a bit about that. This was
say?
with Sandy Plenty.
Yeah,
right?
so this is with Sandy. So obviously Sandy's got his hands in quite a few pies, and he's quite into media and marketing and stuff. So we came up with the idea of starting a podcast together, which would be done in a way that I wouldn't say wish I could do, but it'd be focused on a lot more local guests to him,
right?
UK people, right? So
Shropshire-based,
Shropshire-based, like UK-based, I guess. But obviously filming it all live and being able to have a little studio and a producer, which we've kind of already sorted out and stuff like that. So,
cool.
So that's kind of why I was really attracted to that sort of project, because it's got no real breaks on it.
Yeah, it's a standalone.
Yeah, it's a standalone brand and thing. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love what I'm doing. Like, don't get me wrong, like it's amazing. But there's always that thing in the back of your head that, we're connected to certain brands, and we want to do things the right way for the bike industry as well.
Yeah, of course.
Not selling out or anything like that. So
yeah,
I'm really I'm cautious of that a lot. But wait and see. I don't know.
Interesting. So watch this space for the Trailcast thing.
Well,
I saw the
I think
Instagram
it's still
page.
happening. By the sounds of things, it's still going to happen.
Nice.
It's just that Sandy's a busy guy. To some respects, I'm a busy guy. I'm all over the country all the time. I've got this thing going on, plus other things that I have going on as well, which obviously most people don't see. So, yeah, it would be nice for it to happen, but we'll wait and see.
Sweet, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
It sounds exciting. I'd like to meet Sandy. He sounds like an interesting chap.
He's a good dude. He's a good dude. There's a lot of good people out there in the bike industry.
Yeah, there is definitely.
There's a hell of a lot of good people out there. It's changing, but it's good. Yeah. I love working in it. I really, really do. I love working in the industry. It's something that I wanted to do from being a child.
And you get out there a lot, right? You're in all the dealers and
so I look after the majority of the sales for Hook It. We've got another sales agent down south, but up until recently, I did the whole of the UK.
Right.
We've got a network of, I think there's 800 and odd stores to look after. So yeah, you get out there enough, see quite a lot of people, but a lot of driving. A lot of podcast listening to.
Well, there you go.
Which is cool.
A lot of learning. It's good. It's good. What's the industry like out there at the minute then? Because I don't have that view. I have a limited view into CrossFit. But
what's the industry like at the minute? Wow.
I think that was one of the listener questions.
Yeah, it was actually, and I was dreading it because.
Sorry, dude.
No, it's all right. The industry is changing fast. It feels like at the minute I don't even know what it feels like. It's all over the place, if you ask me. There's a lot of change happening. There's a lot of brands going direct, which is scary. Not trying to plug Hook It here at all, but like we're a new school company in the way that we've got a decent social media presence.
Yeah,
we have a podcast, and we do a load of different cool stuff. So we're quite new school in that respect, but we're very old school in the way that, we don't sell direct. We've got a good network of stores. We try to not deal with a lot of the big online discount houses.
Right.
But what's happening is brands are starting to go direct now. And dealers are closing, man. It's no secret. Bike shops are closing. A lot of people are stopping, going to the local bike shop. And I think that's nothing new, that people are stopping, See, people are not going to the local bike shop. Got to be quite careful here what I say. Wow, this is hard. It's nothing new that people aren't going to the local bike shop.
No, it's been happening for a while.
It's been happening for a long time, I guess, since the invention of the internet and online shopping.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more shops closing these days because they can't keep up with the big online giants. And that's really sad.
Yeah.
It is really sad because there's a lot of amazing bike shops out there that just aren't getting a chance because the local riding scene doesn't support it.
Right.
So yeah, it's you only look at brands. Intense just went direct, for example.
Yeah.
Like, that's a massive thing. A good network of bike shops around the UK. You've got YT Canyon coming into play.
Yeah.
And they're obviously going to upset the apple cart a little bit for bike stores. And it's just changing so fast at the minute. It really is. It's hard to know as a business. I mean, at the end of the day, we're a business. We need to, in some ways, make money. And it's hard to know what to do for the best because you're supporting bike shops as much as you possibly can, but a lot of them are closing. And it's very hard to wrap your head around what is best to do. And I am trying to be quite, trying to be quite careful what I say because I don't really want to say anything that makes me sound dickish.
No, that's fair.
But it's just an ever-changing climate at the minute. And I know everything changes all the time, but for right now, I genuinely have no clue what's going on.
And there are bike shops that are doing well, right? So Sandy's Place.
Oh yeah, there is.
For example.
But for us as a distributor, for every one that's doing well, there's a lot more which aren't doing well.
Yeah, it's a sad state because it'd be a shame if you can't pop round the corner and have a chat and a cup of tea and go for a ride with the boys and pick up bits and bobs from them.
It'd be a massive, massive shame. So I mean, for anyone listening, support your local bike shop.
Yeah, man.
As much as you can, no matter where you're on the world, because it's happening everywhere. It's not just the UK.
Because you'll miss it once it's gone, right? That's 100%. The thing.
The internet can't fix your bike.
No.
That's pretty true.
And it can't bail you out. When you want to go for a ride on Saturday and you realise you haven't got something you need, they're not going to get it to you in 10 minutes.
No, not at all. Not at all. So yeah, that's my take on the bike industry. Although, not trying to get myself in trouble or say anything untoward, but that's kind of my take on it. It's ever changing, but it's changing fast.
Yeah, things are moving at a pace, right? The technology is changing pretty rapidly.
Yeah. There's obviously bike changes all the time. The e-bike thing's crazy. If you ask me, like the whole thing is it's wild. Like since we started Hook It, which was probably about 4 years ago, the industry has just turned on its head in that time. It really has.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to keep changing with it. In some ways, it's a positive for us because we're small, so we can change quite quickly.
Right.
But it's making the right changes and not just shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, keeping ahead of all of it.
Yeah. So I don't really know.
It's moving fast. Like the change in standards and wheel sizes and technologies, I can't keep up, and I can't afford to keep up.
Exactly. I think it's the same for everybody. Well, hopefully, definitely not. Yeah, I hope it is. I don't know. I don't know what to say. The industry's nuts. It's crazy, but it's fun, and there's a lot of amazing people in it too.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly, I don't know, from the race side, from the stuff that I've watched this year, it's been insane. It's been so good, both the enduro and the downhill series.
It's been really cool.
Awesome.
It's been a good year of racing. I'm terrible for remembering races and stuff.
I
we
struggle.
were actually going to say before about your, one of the worst podcasts, I guess, that you did, or one that you struggled with. When I had Luca Shaw on.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember the episode number, but my memory is terrible, and I always forget about race results and who people ride for and all this sort of stuff. And Luca, obviously, I was aware of Luca, so I did some research on Luca, and we just blew through the questions in about 5 minutes.
Oh wow!
One of those literally oh yeah, how's it going? Blah, 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 done. And I was like, shit. So that was when I decided that I'd be a lot more organic. Was pretty much after that one. 'Cause it's like, just got to go with it now. Like, just have a chat. But yeah, up until then, I was a little bit more structured with what I wanted to ask people and direction I wanted the podcast to go.
Yeah.
But again, like we were saying before, what I love about podcasting is it's just organic. It's just a flow.
And that was a good episode. I listened to the one with Luca. It was cool.
Yeah, I haven't listened back, but I was scared at the time.
Give it a go.
it was gnarly.
Yeah, it is weird when you start something and you've got a question in your mind and you think, that'll keep them busy for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And you ask it and it's done in 30 seconds. You're like, this could be interesting.
Yeah. Have you studied any interview techniques or anything like that?
Not really. I've listened to a few bits and bobs. Again, I think there was a Ferris podcast with, I can't remember who it was now, someone that's sort of interviewing, and they give a few sort of tips and techniques and stuff. But I think just listening to other podcasts and thinking about, what would I want to know about that person? What interests me? And, in a selfish way, I guess I started this because I was interested. And I figure if I'm interested, there will be other people that are interested too. And I think that's the beauty of a podcast, right?
Definitely.
You can be a bit selfish with it because it's about appealing to a niche, right?
Yeah.
There aren't that many people on this planet that are into downhill and enduro mountain biking.
True. Yeah.
But
good
I
point.
am, and
Yeah.
I like chatting to people from that industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's enough people out there, hopefully, that will listen to it and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
Well,
But,
we'll see. Yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully it keeps going. But
Yeah.
same, to be honest. Yeah. I mean, again, Rogan's a huge influence for me. And his episodes, 3 hours, it's hard to have a conversation for 3 hours. And the tangents that he goes on and the different routes that he goes down, I love that, though. Like, you can learn so much from it. And that's kind of, in fact, this was quite emotional the other day. Someone commented on iTunes, on the iTunes review,
Yeah.
the Joe Rogan of mountain bike podcasting. And I was like, oh my God.
It doesn't get better, does
So
it?
massive props to whoever wrote that, because
Nice.
that really knocked me for six. I'm not trying to be Joe Rogan at all. But the fact that anybody even linked that together, like, dude,
Yeah, that's insane.
I was stoked.
Yeah.
I was absolutely stoked.
Well, he's the king of podcasting, right?
For sure. He is to me.
Yeah.
You know,
if
he
you're going to
really-
get compared to
he
anyone,
is. Yeah, I
that's
love what
pretty
he's
good.
done as well. Like, that's the dream. Is he's just opened up that new warehousey podcast place. So he's got bought a huge industrial unit, and it's got like a gym and cryo chamber and God, there's all sorts in it, and a podcast studio. And the long-term goal is to have something like that. That'd be rad. Pump track, distribution,
man.
podcast studio.
living the dream.
Yeah,
That would
exactly.
be cool.
Barbecue
that'd be
pit,
super
all
cool.
all that cool stuff.
Yeah, and a sauna like this one.
And a sauna like this one with hot Russian chicks. Yeah,
Happy days. Insane. So who have you had on that you've really enjoyed then?
good question.
Because you've had some awesome
Okay.
people on. Let's.
I think different people bring something very different to the table.
Yeah.
Obviously. Ollie Wilkins was incredible. Like, I didn't know Ollie going into that at all. And since then, Ollie's become a good friend of mine, actually.
Nice.
And Ollie was just one of those guests where you could just sit and chat all night, like happily just sit and chat, just like a mate. And I love when that happens. So Ollie was definitely one of my favourite episodes.
Cool.
Brett Tippy was also the same.
Yeah.
I really wish that I pressed that record button before. So me and Brett spoke for about 45, 50 minutes before we started recording. And I was
Whoa.
like, dude, we should really start recording. And he's, yeah, man, hang on, yeah. And then I ended up sat chatting to sort of Sarah, his wife, for a little while. And then we finished recording. And I don't know if you do this, but I always say, I'll finish and then I'll call you back.
Right.
And
yeah.
we'll have a chat and I'll tell you what's
we
going to
normally
happen
chat
next, right?
afterwards. Yeah.
And then we did that. And then we probably did another 2 hours.
Nice.
Yeah, and so Brett was amazing. God, I sometimes forget. There's been certain guests that have just been a springboard for the whole thing. Danny was a massive one. So Danny Hart, Loic,
Yeah. Loic
huge
was
as
big.
well. Loic was
yeah.
massive. Like, again, really hard to tie Loic down. He was late. He was probably 4 hours late to do that. So I was sort of like sat there, text him. I probably shouldn't text him yet. It's only been an hour. Text him again. Like, it's one of those ones.
Do you feel kind of? I always feel real nervous if I've got if I've emailed someone and they haven't replied. I'm like, can I chase them? Like, they're kind of famous.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Definitely.
Like,
Yeah,
I feel a
definitely.
bit nervous.
I
of
had
the
that
whole
with
thing,
Brett
like-
actually, but he said he's like, I'm just terrible at replying to text messages. He's like, text me when you want to do it. So I text him, nothing for days. And then I was like, text him again. He's like, I'm so sorry. So yeah, I do get that as well. I'm trying to think, man. Like, the guys from Sick were really cool too. Boris, I mean, everyone's brought something different to the table. I've not
Yeah,
had a
definitely.
guest, and I probably would say actually, I've not had a guest that I've been like, oh, that was shit. I really didn't enjoy doing that. It was like pulling teeth, and I've not had one of those at all.
The only one that I didn't enjoy, and it wasn't because of them, was the episode with Tani, because
Right,
the internet
'cause-
was so bad,
And I guess
so
in the
wanted
back
it to
of
be
your
good.
mind, you're like panicking.
Yeah, and I was
stuff
like,
like
this is someone I really want on. I really want to hear what they have to say, and it wasn't working, and I was pretty gutted with that.
Slightly embarrassing as well.
Yeah, it is because it's like
Same. I've had that as well. I mean, the one with obviously we totally fucked one up with Rich Payne and Lou Buchanan, which
you
was amazing.
forgetting
That
to
was
record.
gold.
The second version of it was good.
Second version apparently was pretty good. I didn't listen to that one, but the first one was really cool. And I just didn't press record.
Mate, yeah, I was saying to you like when we got here, as soon as I saw that on your social media, I felt sick for you. Like,
Yeah, but
Couldn't get
credit
worse.
to those guys. I messaged them probably half an hour after searching every single part of my computer, under the sofa trying to find the file. And I messaged them. I was like, guys, I'm so sorry. And they were both so cool. They were like, oh, no worries. Do you want to do it now again? And I was like, nah, we'll, give it a week. Let's make it a bit more organic again.
Yeah.
But they were awesome. And that whole thing with Rich, actually, I forget about Rich.
I've really enjoyed that.
That thing with Rich has got his own little following, like, in a way. Like,
Yeah.
that's been so much fun.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really good insight.
Yeah, I think so. In some respects, maybe we could have done it better looking back, but Rich has been fantastic.
Oh, he's a super funny guy as
he's
well.
He's a good guy. He's a really nice guy. And again, going into that, I didn't really know Rich at all, to be honest. We support him, I guess, in our small way of sending some free goodies over. And when he said he was doing that, and we were just chatting on the phone, and I said, why don't we do a podcast together? And then he's like, yeah. And I was like, why don't we do a series? Like, let's just do it. And he was like, yeah, I'm up for that. I'll do an edit. I'll do a video. You do the podcast side of it. And that's been really fun.
Sweet.
And I hope we can do that again next year.
Yeah,
it
I
looks
hope so.
like he's got an entry.
And there's new rounds. There's new stuff. It's going to be interesting again.
I think so.
Yeah.
Just put a different twist on it somehow.
Definitely. No, I think you should. I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, me too. It's been cool. It's been really fun, like just chatting with him after the race, and the whole thing's been really cool, actually.
Yeah.
I'd like to do some more stuff like that, like series and stuff.
Mm.
Try to do a shop talk one.
Yes, you did, because you had
with
Sandy on early doors.
Yeah. But then knocked that on the head pretty quickly.
Right.
That upset a few people, unfortunately.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, just,
all right. Yeah,
just
fair
dealers
enough.
and stuff getting a bit pissy about having one guy on, but it is what it is sometimes.
Yeah.
So I just decided that for right now, we'll knock that one on the head. Just don't want to upset anybody. There's no favoritism with Hook It.
No.
There's no favoritism with the podcast, so I didn't want it to come across like there was.
That's fair enough.
So yeah, knock that one on the head. What about yourself? What's been your standouts?
Highlights. Oh, I don't know. So Katie Winton was a surprise.
Okay.
And I actually recorded that in the afternoon before the one with Tani in the evening. So I'd had the sort
Double
of high
header.
from that, and then the low of all the issues that we had with Tani's episode. So yeah, Katie was awesome. She's like a proper bundle of energy and excitement in the most amazing way. So yeah, that was really cool. I didn't know a huge amount about her. You obviously knew that she was doing well in the World Series.
Yeah.
And knew a bit about her background, but didn't really know a whole lot at all, to be honest. So I think I asked like one question, and she talked for, I don't know, 15 minutes, and it was so cool. And I was just sat there thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
Like, this story is super interesting. And yeah, it's gold. Like,
Good.
It was brilliant.
Yeah, it was a good episode, man.
Thanks, man.
Really good.
That's our most popular by quite a bit,
Really?
actually. It's a standout. Yeah, it kind of took off, certainly in the Scotland like riding area.
Yeah.
Like, everyone seems to have listened to that one, which is cool. So that was really good. Enjoyed that a lot. And Katie's been super helpful. She stayed in touch, and like she gave us some trail recommendations last time we were up there riding, which is pretty nice.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Who else? Greg Minnar was an interesting one.
All right.
So like pretty intimidating, and very smart guy, super busy. So we recorded at Fort William. I was already way out of my comfort zone.
Oh, really?
Like on my own.
This then?
Yeah. Like
All right. Okay.
Yeah. On my own, like at Fort William World Cup, hanging out, trying to meet people that I've never met before, trying to get guests for the show, right? So kind of freaky. And I met Greg briefly on the Friday, and he knew anyway that I wanted to interview him. So John, who works for O'Neill, had put us in touch. So anyway, he was like, oh, I don't know, schedule's pretty hectic. And this boy, like, I don't know if you saw him at Fort William, but he did not stop, right? He was either on his bike, getting his bike set up, or doing media, or meeting school kids. Like, I don't know how he does it. Like, it was insane. Just unbelievable. Anyway, so he was like, right, come over in the morning at, I don't know, 10 o'clock. Hopefully we'll have a window then. So I turned up at the Santa Cruz pits, and I think he was like meeting some school kids, and then did something like tweaking his bike, and Geordie from Fox was there, and they were checking some settings and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, right, good, I've got half an hour, let's go, sit down. And we're like straight in, like,
wow.
I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. I feel a bit of pressure here. But no, super nice guy, like dead chilled.
Good.
But how he won that weekend, the amount of pressure on his shoulders,
and that's something that a lot of people probably don't get to see as well. You just get the races. And I've seen that from sort of Joe, obviously, Bowman, who's Steel City Media, who's a good friend of mine, right? And, even him at a World Cup, it's just wild. Like, it never stops. And I've not really been around many riders at World Cups, if I'm being brutally honest, but I can imagine it's pretty hectic. You know?
I think it varies a lot as well from people that are. I mean, Greg's from a media commitments perspective is huge, right? So Red Bull want a piece of him. All the magazines want him. So I think for the riders that are kind of on their way up, there's a little bit more breathing room, but it's still a busy weekend. But for people at the top, you know, Aaron, Greg, people like that, geez, fair play. Like, they earn their money. Yeah, for sure. It's pretty hard work. Awesome. There's more beers arriving in the sauna.
Thank you very much.
It's amazing.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Boom.
Good
It's
stuff.
going to be a sketchy drive home, isn't
Isn't
it?
So that, and then Mick Hanna was really good. So Mick was amazing. Yeah, we sat down after Cairns World Cup.
Okay.
So I don't know. You could imagine he's in a pretty challenging place, right? He was clearly on for the win.
Yep.
He was capable of the win, and he didn't quite get it by the tiniest of margins. But yeah, he's clearly he's a very very thoughtful guy, like quite philosophical, I guess.
Yeah, quite methodical, I think, too.
Yeah, just really nice, gentle kind of approach to life, and had a real, the way he approaches stuff, and you know, he does it because he enjoys it. You know, the results are a byproduct of having fun and doing something that he loves. And that, I guess, that resonated with me at the time as well, because I was in the throes of deciding to leave work and all that stuff. And so hearing someone saying, you know, just do what you love and it'll all work out is pretty powerful.
And it's cool that as a host, you can get something from all these too.
Oh, mate, I am not a lot, but I am faster on a bike.
Right.
From a year and a bit of chatting to,
really?
or a year of chatting to these people.
I'm for sure not.
Really? I definitely have, yeah, because you just pick up, you get a bit stoked on it, like, oh, that person was a really interesting chat. But you pick up little hints and tips, and I might try that. And there's themes as well, I think, that come out, like things like consistency is a theme that came out of it all, and, you know, knowing where things are at with your bike and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I think it has helped, and it's just it sort of spurred me on to push a bit more and go a bit faster. So I haven't put a race run down to see where that's really at, but I feel faster. I'm enjoying riding more as well, which is cool. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So we'll see if any races get done in 2018. I don't know yet. Okay. Are you getting out? Are you going to race?
Man, I barely ride. I'll be honest, because a lot of people know me or listen to this, so I'm not going to lie to you.
Good on you.
One of the main issues of working in the bike industry is not really being able to ride that often.
Yeah.
And again, I'm quite transparent about this. Is, you know, when you've talked bikes all week, been in bike shops all week, sometimes it gets to the weekend and you go, man, I don't really. I need a break from this. You know. Yeah. And it's the same for a lot of people. Hopefully, you know, a lot of builders probably don't want to build houses at weekends and stuff like that. So I sold my bike a while back, actually, now. Right. Which is terrible, man. Like, I work in the bike industry, but I don't ride as much as what I should do. But again, I'm quite an all-in kind of guy. So again, when it came to, this is going well back, right? But like starting Hook It, I go all in. Yeah. I sold everything to start this business. And I mean everything. And I lost everything just before too with the old company. So that was a really bad company breakup. I lost everything, house, everything.
Fair dues, man.
So I'm quite, like I say, I'm an all-in kind of guy. So a lot of the time, any sort of spare cash which I have does get pumped back into the business. Right. Bikes aren't cheap these days.
No, not at all. Even if you're in the industry.
Even if you're in the industry, you know, believe it or not, you know, no one's throwing bikes at me. No. They're really not. I can get a good deal on a bike, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I've just sort of had to, on a personal level, get myself back on my feet. You know, we don't earn a lot of money out of Hook It right now. There's three of us. There's me and two partners. Yeah. So my focus is still on building the business, and it's not necessarily about just having a lot of toys at the minute. That's fair. It's about, sad, but it's about like working hard and being able to open up more doors with that. So and I am quite transparent about that, actually, because a lot of people probably do think, oh, he rides all the time and all this sort of stuff. But I'm really not riding that much right now. Like, I sacrificed everything to start this company. Mm-hmm. Everything. Everything. All those toys went out the window just to start the business.
But sometimes that's got to be done, right? Like
100%.
You've got a vision.
If you're going to go all in, you go all in.
Yeah.
And obviously I had to get myself a house sorted. So buying a house isn't cheap, especially when you've just started a company too. So I had to do that, needed a place to live. So saving a deposit, starting a business, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it takes it out of you, right?
It takes it out of you too.
Yeah.
Man.
And you're
Like,
away a lot, right?
I'm away a hell of a lot. Yeah, I stay in a hotel 2 or 3 times a week usually, on the road, seeing customers. So, yeah, 2018 for me is about definitely grabbing a new bike and being able to enjoy that side of the industry a little bit more.
Yeah.
When we first started, I did a hell of a lot of like shop rides and stuff like that. So a lot of obviously bike shops have an evening ride, which is fantastic, but it makes your day so long. Like if I go on a shop ride in, I don't know, I live in Sheffield, so let's say Shrewsbury with Sandy at Trailhead.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours home, wash everything, whatever. Probably don't get home till midnight, and then get up, do the same thing the next day. It can kind of wear on you too. Yeah. So it's not a sob story by a long shot, but
No, I understand it.
I've definitely sacrificed, and I'm not getting the violins out here at all, but I've sacrificed a hell of a lot to get the business to this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2018 is definitely about that, and that's one of the things that happened recently. We got a bit of an offer with the podcast to have a bike brand come on board.
Oh, right.
And turned it down. Just because it doesn't fit the ethos, man. It wasn't.
Yeah.
We talk about it off air, but like it didn't fit the ethos at all. So
That's fair.
Yeah. Again, make a little sacrifice just to keep doing what we're doing.
It's got to be done. I know what you're saying. Like I in a cheesy way say get out and ride at the end of every episode.
Right.
And I wasn't. Like I rode a bit last year, but nowhere near as much as I wanted because I worked like a decent chunk away from home, so I had a big commute in the morning, a big commute in the evening. Like I had to kind of, unless I wanted to sit in loads of traffic, I had to leave home pretty early and then come back pretty late.
Yeah.
So I ended up, being away from home a lot of the time.
Right.
And by the time you get back, like the last thing you really want to do most of the time is get on the bike. Because by the time you've done your riding, you got cleaned up, you're back home.
Yeah.
Like, I need a lot of sleep. I'm a softie in that respect. And it just wasn't happening. Like get away a bit on weekends and stuff, but it wasn't enough for me.
Right.
So hopefully part of next year is riding a little bit more.
It seems to be an underlying theme in the bike industry that a lot of bike shop owners and people who work within the industry don't ride as much as probably people think. I mean, there's obviously going to be some exceptions.
Yeah, for sure.
But a lot of it is talking about bikes and the industry and not necessarily riding them.
Yeah.
But that's something that I really, really want to change. Like I really do. But again, you got to get everything in order before you do that sort of stuff. Like I've learned a lot from I guess, without getting too deep, from losing a business and losing everything, you learn that like other things are more important to you than just having toys.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. At that time in my life, I had quite a lot of toys and nice things and stuff. But it's kind of about the simple things these days first, and then you can branch out and have cool stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to look at it. Like, and you were saying earlier, and I was thinking how similar to me, my attitude to money has changed totally.
Yeah.
Like I used to. It sounds horrible now, but I guess I used to justify my success based on how much I earn.
Yeah,
and that's
bullshit, man.
It's total bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's about how much time you've got to do the stuff you want to do with the people you want to be with.
I can't remember who said this once, but freedom coins really resonated with me, and I was like, "That's so true." Like, yeah, you need money just for freedom, and then once you've got enough to achieve freedom, you're sweet.
Yeah, and that's not actually that much. Like we
No,
sort
not
of
at
surround
all.
ourselves with all these things, and we assume we need X amount of
Yeah,
money.
Not at all.
But I don't think it is that much.
No, not at all. Not at all. So yeah, my attitude to that has totally changed. It really, really has. From being a young lad who was doing, had a pretty big business at that age.
Yeah.
And then having to work up really from the bottom with nothing. I don't take stuff like buying a new bike for granted anymore. Like it's something that I want to. I don't know. Like, got to really justify it to myself a little bit more and make sure everything else is in order before doing stuff like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of a bit counterintuitive to having a mountain bike podcast sometimes, but I'm not out to lie to people. I'd rather be honest and say,
you're surrounding yourself with stuff that you love, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Whether you're out riding or not, you still enjoy being involved with it.
Massive, yeah, massively. And riding's no issue anyway. Like I do own bikes, but it's not. I've not had a new one for a while. That's for sure. But it's easy to get them, and stuff like that. People always lend you stuff when you work within the industry and whatnot. And I own a lot of bike parts, actually, believe it or not.
All right, there you go. Well, you've got the makings of a bike then.
Yeah, I own a hell of a lot of bike parts.
You just need a frame to hang it on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's kind of my thing for 2018 is to get out and ride. You know, there's a lot of offers on the table to go riding with certain guests that I've had on the podcast that I just need to get out and do next year.
I rode with my first guests a couple of weeks back. So I rode with Bex Barron and Martha Gill,
Bex is a bit of
the
a
Gawan
rare-
girls, and it was
an animal on a bike.
pretty good. They're quick, right?
Yeah.
Like
I know she rides with James, my mate, Swinney.
oh yeah, Swinney,
quite a lot.
yeah.
They've become quite friendly over the last few years, I guess. So I know they ride together quite a lot. If she rides with James, she's an animal.
Yeah, James is not
bloody
slow,
hard
is
to
he?
ride with James.
It was funny. We did a loop round for anyone that knows the Peach District, like above Lady Bower Reservoir.
Right, yeah.
And we came down a hill that I've ridden up before, never come down it. And there's quite a few gates on the way. You go through like farmers' walls and stuff. And there's some lads riding up, and they were at one of the gates, so they held the gate open for us. And it like Bex and Martha, and then me. And they were like, "Come on, mate, you're getting beaten by girls here." I was thinking to myself, "I don't think you know who these two are." I'm perfectly fine with that.
Some of the quickest in the world,
Yeah,
though.
they're pretty quick. So that was cool. But it was really nice to actually go out and ride with some people and like have a bit of banter and then
That's
sit
cool.
and record something. And it was just at Bex's place in the kitchen, around
Perfect.
the table, cup of tea,
Yeah,
job done. Yeah,
That's
it's real
cool.
nice. I'd love to do more of that.
yeah.
That'd be really nice.
Yeah. That's my aim. At some point, is to do more live stuff. I think it's nice. It's a nice thing. It's just I'd love to be able to have people come over to the studio and just hang out and, again, without, I know I keep going on about Rogan, but I love that dynamic of just sitting. There's drinks flowing. You just sit and chat, man. Like it's the lost art of conversation. Sometimes, you never know what's going to come out.
Yeah, for sure.
Me confessing my, love for mountain biking, but not necessarily riding that much these days.
Yeah, you'll get back on it though, won't you?
Yeah, oh man,
if
for
you
sure.
love it, you'll find space at some point.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
it'll happen.
For sure, 100%. I've always been around it. It's something that's been in my life since I was, knee high to a grasshopper sort of
when
thing.
did you start? Like, how did you get into riding?
Wow. This was always going to come up, wasn't it? So we're going to have to mention the M word a little bit. So I'm from a motorsport background.
Okay, tell me a
Believe
bit
it or
more.
not. So I am from a motorsport. My family's always been into motocross. I've had speedway riding uncles, and I've always been around two-wheel motorcycle sport.
Cool.
And growing up, huge motor fan. Yeah, started racing motocross at about 6 or 7, I reckon. Rode all the time. Got to relatively high level as a schoolboy.
Yeah.
Always rode mountain bikes as well on the side. Massively into my dirt jumping as a young lad. Did a little bit of speedway, I guess, too, on the side, which is crazy. Never touched one of those things ever again in my life. And then I trying to think how I got into mountain biking. This is a crazy story, actually. And I only just realised it. So I actually moved to California when I was 16. Just after did my GCSEs. Day or two after, moved to California to race motocross.
This is on your own, not with your parents.
No,
or
I
anything?
just went
out.
on my own. I
Yeah.
went there. There's a company called MX Heaven, and what they used to do, they used to have people come over from the UK and go on holiday basically. So they take them to the local tracks. They do all the Troy Lee design shop, Chaparral, all the cool stuff, right? So I did that at about 15. Decided then and there, like, that's where I'm heading. I'm going to California. So I was riding at a pretty high level, but I didn't go over there to really turn pro or anything like that. If it happened, it kind of happened. If not, but I got a job working at MX Heaven, and it literally was heaven. So I lived there for 4 years, on and off. Came back every now and again, caught up with friends. Did the whole visa thing. So I was living in California, and every time I came back from California, one of my jobs was to go to Troy Lee, pick up helmets for Petey, and bring them back. So Steve was a bit of a mate of mine back then. I was a young lad,
pretty
bit of
cool.
a hero of mine. I'd go and I'd grab his helmets, painted ones or whatever he was having, and I'd bring them back. And one day I was just chatting to Steve about mountain biking, I think, and the fact that I was a bit burnt out on motocross, and I wanted to try mountain biking. So I went back to California and started looking at Santa Cruz bikes. I just started riding for Santa Cruz back then, and all this sort of cool stuff. And then that is pretty much how I got into it, actually. So I came home, grabbed a downhill bike, went to Australia, raced the Australian National Series
Yeah.
with a mate of mine when we did some travelling. And I was pretty much hooked from there, really. I've always been around it, but that was like a pivotal point where I was like, oh, I really like this. Like, this is a bit of me.
Yeah.
I think I had kind of burnt out on the motocross thing without going into that too deeply. Jesus.
The
It's
comments.
a bit of
I
an
can feel the
underlying-
comments.
Yeah, a bit of an underlying subject. Someone commented on iTunes again the other day, like, amazing motocross podcast with a bit of mountain biking. I was like, yes, summed it up
Awesome.
perfectly. But, you know, in all honesty, when you've been around something all your life, and
It's a big reference.
moto
point.
is my thing. Like,
Yeah.
it is. Like, it really is. Like, I'm a motocross kid. Like, I'm a
Yeah.
dirt biker at heart. I really am. And so that is my point of reference for a lot. You know, most of the stuff that I've done through my life has been revolved around motocross.
Yeah.
It genuinely has. You know, whether it's been working in motocross shops or racing or you know, I did some training with people, all that sort of stuff. My whole thing has been evolved around motocross, and it is a good transition into downhill and mountain biking and stuff anyway.
Yeah, definitely. It crosses
But-
over a lot.
Yeah, but it is always my point of reference is the motor industry and stuff.
There's nothing wrong
And
with
that's, you know, how I ended up in the bike industry as well, in a weird kind of way. I
Yeah.
worked for One Industries.
that. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I was the northern sales rep for One Industries Moto
Yeah.
for 4 years. Only got that job really because I badgered my way into getting a job off them. I literally rang up and said, you don't have a rep up here in the north? And they were like, no, we don't. So, do you want one? And they were like, yeah. I was like, all right, I'll come down. Sort it
Perfect.
out. Drove
Yeah.
down, did the deal, came back.
Nice.
So that kind of got me in the industry in a way
Yeah.
as well. And then obviously got sidetracked for a little while doing camper van stuff, which, yeah, was good. But,
It's a learning, right?
oh man, massive.
Even if the ending wasn't what you wanted.
That was terrible.
Then,
Couldn't have been any worse.
But you must have taken a lot from that, right?
Yeah.
A lot of what you learned, you're now putting
like,
into other
huge
stuff,
growing
right?
up experience. Traveling Europe, even at that age, for 4 years.
Yeah.
Selling camper vans to rich Swedish people and Norwegians and, you know, the odd bit of Russia and all that sort of stuff. It was crazy. Like,
Eye-opening.
yeah, looking back, it's
Yeah.
like, how did two young lads create that? Like, but we did somehow.
Nice.
I don't know. What was the question before? Anyway,
How did you get into mountain biking?
Oh yeah, there you go. So that's
when-
kind of.
So when's Petey coming on the podcast then?
I don't know.
He claims to not know what they are.
I know. Did he do the Vital one?
Not
The Santa
yet.
Cruz Syndicate?
I thought he was doing
The
it.
Syndicate were
but
on it, but I've not seen if Steve did it or not.
No, I've not. Or if they have, I've not seen it yet.
Okay.
But yeah,
Ah.
who knows?
Maybe one day. Who knows?
It would be good.
Yeah, it'd be rad.
He'd have a lot to
It'd be
say.
rad.
So
Rad.
me and a mate, John, in fact, from O'Neill, we interviewed when we were at uni. We did. I don't know how this came about, but we ended up doing an article for the university magazine.
Right.
So we went to Bike. I want to say Bike 99.
Oh, rad. Really.
I'm
I
showing
think
my
I did
age.
that too.
But a while ago.
Yeah.
I think it was at the NEC. And I don't know where it was. Maybe it was in London. Anyway,
Somewhere.
but we managed to blag an interview with Steve Pete, Rob Warner, and Will Longdon, which at
Right.
the time was like,
Wow.
oh my God, like my three biggest heroes in a room in like the press office. What am I doing? Like, it was insane. And we recorded it on a dictaphone,
Right.
which is pretty old school, and then literally like had to go through the dictaphone and write it all down and then like type it up on a word processor. And we wrote an article for the university magazine. So yeah,
Wow.
my entry into journalism, my only journalism pre this, I guess, was an interview
I was going to say,
with
so
those
have you
guys.
ever had any like ideas, not for starting a podcast, but any like media stuff like that before, or
Not
is this
really.
pretty much the first thing?
No, I did a
Not
couple.
even as a young lad, nothing.
No, I did a couple of
Wow.
bits for the university magazine. We did a couple of like photo shoots, bike related photo
Yeah.
shoots, like fashion type stuff and that. But no, nothing.
Right.
And-
I'm a big believer in you know what you want to do when you're young,
Yeah,
like you really know, and you might get lost along the way, but you usually end up coming back to doing what you want to do. So
yeah,
good example. Sorry to bang on about this myself, but like when I was a young lad and I was really into motocross, I used to study motocross magazines about brands, who was distributing them, you know, the marketing they were doing, you know,
Yeah.
even if it was just, obviously then it was just print magazine stuff,
yeah.
but I used to study them and I used to call up and ask for stickers and catalogs, and I was like fascinated by it. And at the same sort of time, I was really into radio. And I totally forgot about it until my mum mentioned it about 2 weeks ago. And she
Interesting.
was like, do you remember when you wanted to do like your work experience at a radio station? because you want to be a radio DJ. And I was like, oh shit.
Interesting.
Wow, how crazy is that? Like now have almost two of the exact same things, like
Yeah,
a
that's-
distribution company and a podcast.
That's
And I
kind of
totally
weird.
forgot about it.
So I used to help out a bit actually. So you've made me think now. I used to help a little bit with the school magazine, like
Right.
a primary school
Yeah,
magazine.
right?
Quite enjoyed that. I used to love radio. I used to listen to radio a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. So maybe there is like a little
yeah,
bit of
definitely.
something
It's weird
there.
when you start thinking about it.
It is pretty
like,
crazy.
Yeah, I trip out on it all the time. I'm like, oh god, yeah, I used to like, record Radio 1 stuff and like
Yeah.
try and mix it together on my own on my tape decks. and
Yeah,
shit,
exactly.
Like, and now, it's a little bit different, but it's similar. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
Like doing this similar sort of thing.
We did some kind of freaky, like, I don't know, like a personality thing or whatever at work, where you answer a ruckload of questions and it gives you some various like letters. It's called Myers-Briggs, I think, anyway. And it's some guy that's researched all of this and he reckons he can work out your personality type by your answers to 150 questions or whatever. But I'm probably get this wrong, but I think I'm an ENFP. It's my version of the 4 letters. But anyway,
Okay.
I Googled that recently. I did this years ago, right? And I dug it out fairly recently, probably because I was clearing my desk out to leave. And I was like, wow, I'd forgotten I did that. Like, let's see what this means. And I
Yeah.
typed it in and it was like, oh, this is quite an unusual like combination of those 4 letters. Often these sort of people will really enjoy journalism.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, okay, it's
How
pretty
crazy is
random.
that?
Like I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's little
There's
hints along
definitely
the way.
something in it, and I'm a big believer in that as well. When you're young, you sort of just know what you want to do, and it seems like you just end up doing it. Whether it's total coincidence or what, I don't know, but like it trips me out to even think about it sometimes. I'm like, wow, as if I've ended up doing that.
That's cool, isn't it? Shows
It's
that you
different.
can do what you want
Yeah.
to do if you set your mind to it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think you without being too cliche, you can do pretty much anything you want to do. If you
Yeah,
set your
no,
mind to it.
it does sound the cliche, and
It is
I
cliche,
feel
but-
exactly the same
yeah.
about saying that, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is
Yeah.
I've got to believe that, like,
You have to.
otherwise I'm screwed. So yeah, I buy that.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
All right, can we take a piss?
Yeah, man.
I don't want to do a Claudio.
No, let's take a break.
All right,
All right.
let's do it.
Right.
Shit on here.
Okay.
All right,
We're back from the toilet.
back from piss break.
Bladders have been relieved.
My bladder is not good, man.
No, mine's
Oh, you
pretty,
recorded?
pretty
Oh,
weak.
shit.
my bladder is older than me, I reckon.
Yeah,
and
man,
I'm
my
old
bladder's
enough.
bad. It's not good. I drink too much water. Means I end up.
When you're driving as well, like
Oh,
you
it's
have to
awful.
stop all the time.
Yeah, I have some bad piss stops. Got to learn to not piss in the schools and stuff.
Oh no. Yeah, that'll get you in trouble pretty quick these days. Sweet.
All right.
We're going to go for some listener questions. I think we
Let's
got
do it.
a few, didn't we?
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll look on our Instagram real quick. So, who we got? Okay. Obviously, the guys from D&D have commented. There's no point reading that out. Cheers, Dan. Got to give him a shout out. Bless him. He's a good guy. Okay. Holland15H on Instagram, at Holland15H. If you could change something on each other's podcast, what would it be?
Go on, go for it.
I wouldn't change anything on your podcast, dude. Wow. Jeez. What would I change? I wouldn't change anything. Keep doing what
Thanks,
you're doing.
man.
Keep enjoying
Cheers,
it.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, same for you. I know what you'd say you'd change, and that's the audio quality
Oh,
of
yeah.
a few of them.
Yeah, massively.
But that's learning, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's something that I need to learn about audio quality.
Yeah.
It's not my thing.
Well, the offer's there. You can come around and we can
Appreciate it.
have a
Thank
play
you.
with some stuff.
Thank you. The way I do it
drums.
is probably not the best way of doing it, but it's got us to this stage. And in some ways, and I know this is really bad, but like I kind of like that sometimes it's a bit bad. You know what I mean? It's raw, like
Yeah, it's real.
and I don't want it. I don't want to be polished.
Yeah, and it's the same with ours. Like we've had comments of people saying the audio could be better. It's not
Yeah.
good enough. Please sort it. But sometimes that's what I'm stuck with, right? I can either choose to speak to people that live within a 20-mile radius,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I can live with the fact that it might not be perfect. And
It is what it is.
For me, I think that's
I
better.
think unless you've tried doing it, it's everyone's had a Skype conversation where the audio's gone down and there's a bit of a crackle and there's this and there's that. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything about yours, dude.
Well, if I was changing my own, I'd try and make it a little bit more laid back and less scripted. But I think we're heading in that direction anyway. I think I'm getting more comfortable with doing it, and that helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a way, that's something I'd change about mine too. Like maybe I could be a bit more nitty gritty with people rather than just being a bit more laid back and a bit chilled about it. But there's a time and a place for that stuff sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like sometimes it's really, especially when you've only just met somebody. I mean, a good example is there's two actually. When Martin Ashton was on.
Yeah, legend.
Awesome, nicest guy. But to know how to approach the subject of his accident was really tough.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to offend him, and I didn't want to speak out of turn, and that's really hard, especially when you're not sat in a room staring at each other. And the same with Brett as well, actually. When Tippy was on, I knew he'd had some battles with addiction and drugs. How do you bring that up to somebody?
Yeah, that's very tricky.
It's really hard, and it's about doing it and being respectful. And that's, in some ways, that's what I'd change. But you've also got to know the dirt too. I mean, those guys, it's obvious Martin Ashton had an accident, he's paralysed. It's obvious Brett Tippy had some battles with addiction because he spoke about it quite a lot. But hopefully, well, not hopefully, but you have to know the dirt on people to bring it up.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because you don't, certainly with people like Martin, they must have talked about that 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And in a way, I don't want to cover too much old ground, but it's a massively important part of who they are.
And it's what a lot of people want to hear.
Yeah, you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
tricky.
Don't change anything, dude. Keep doing it.
Martin's amazing. Love him. Awesome. Yeah, same.
Do more of these. These are fun.
They are fun. Especially when there's beer involved.
Yeah, man. And naked Russian girls. not racist at all. You could be any ethnicity.
You're all lovely.
You're all beautiful girls. That's right. All right. At Collier Ewan, that's sick. Davey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how moto are you?
11. Go on, crank it up.
Yeah, I'm 11. Fuck it. I love it. You can swear on your podcast, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we've had swearing.
Okay. At Matty Bear, where's the best place to ride in Yorkshire, in your opinions?
So for me, I would say Grenoside and Warncliffe, and a few reasons, right? So Greno is cool, Steel City track, mint, good fun, pretty accessible trails, all fairly easy, nothing too challenging. Warncliffe, very different. The other side of the road, so you park in the same place if people haven't been. Much steeper. You got all the kind of old school gnarly stuff down one end, and then you've got Vancouver or whatever it's called these days down the other end, where 50 to 1 boys and treatings and I'm not cool enough to know all those names, but I've just built the most amazing stuff. Like it's kind of a mixture of art, sculpture, and riding in the most beautiful way. So that's super cool. And my first ever Grenoside experience, I think I met Si from Kotick up there. We went for a ride, and I can't remember what happened, but he stopped kind of halfway down the run. So I got to the bottom of the hill before him, and there was a few lads down the bottom. And so I said hello to the first person I saw, who happened to be Josh Lewis, and then turned around to say all right to the other boys, and one of which was Petey. And so it was
been known to ride in there a few times.
Yeah, but like pretty ridiculous. One of the first times I'd ridden like in Sheffield, really. Right. And like Petey's at the bottom of the hill. And yeah, like super cool. We ended up like riding up the hill with him and having a little bit of a chat. He knows Si.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was pretty mind blowing. That always sticks to me. It's the only time I've ever seen him there.
Right.
But it was pretty cool, like first ever trip there. So yeah, Greno and Warney is, I think, it's pretty special. Like you struggle to beat that.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd agree with you totally. On a very personal and friend sort of level too. You know, the guys from Treatings and stuff. I wouldn't say they're close mates, but you know, we used to help them out. And what they've done, and I said this on the Josh Lewis podcast too, actually. You know, what they've done in those woods and the vibe they've brought to it is amazing.
It's unreal.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
You know, that whole skater mentality of just riding and digging with mates and, you know, hanging out in the woods and pretty much living in there for years. I'm going to say, definitely Warncliffe.
Yeah.
For sure for me. Yeah.
Even if you don't ride, like it's a thing
Yeah.
of beauty. Some
It
of what
is,
they've built, like the
100%.
stone sculptures
Yeah.
and the dirt work.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
just,
That's.
yeah,
I mean,
unbelievable.
again, I'm local, but for me, it's definitely going to be Warncliffe.
Yeah.
If you're not ridden Warncliffe,
Yeah,
get out there. Man.
It's got everything,
man,
right?
We have obviously there's listeners from all over the world, so come over, go
yeah,
for a ride.
Definitely.
Let's arrange a ride.
We should. Maybe we should.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So definitely Warncliffe for me.
Cool. Nice one.
All right. Okay. Okay, we've got at Let's Get High 420. Love that name. Who has been your favourite guest on each other's podcasts and on your own podcast? I know we've kind of covered that, but
Yeah, I guess if I had to pick one on mine, it would be Katie, just because it was unexpected, I guess, and super cool, loads of energy, awesome. And on yours, I was thinking about this the other day because I was going to enter your competition. I still haven't yet. Should do.
Man.
When does it close? Tonight?
tomorrow.
Tomorrow. All right, I'll
You've
get
got
on
to
it.
enter that, man.
I really loved the Mad Dog Boris episode.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't expect it. Like, I didn't know anything about him, really. I got the impression he liked to drink from kind of the media that's out there, but that's about it. And I just thought he was super interesting, like passionate, into what he does, like the way he's got into the sport and, the energy that he had for it. And I got to meet him at Fort William and had a chat and actually had a quick coffee with him and Sven. And it was amazing. Like, he's just such a cool guy.
Yeah.
Like bounding with energy, striding through the pits, like saying hello to everyone and just generally being a good dude. So yeah, that blew my mind. I wasn't expecting that. It was cool. And then, Martin Ashton, clearly a legend, amazing story, very inspirational guy. So yeah, I sort of struggle. That's why I haven't entered the competition yet. I'm not quite sure which way it goes.
You can do it twice, just refresh the page.
All right, sweet. There you go. That's the tip.
You can vote for more than one, too.
Nice. Don't give all that away.
Totally
Insider
cheap,
secrets.
Obviously, for me, like, Katie was awesome. Katie Winton on yours was brilliant. Like you said, bundle of energy. Like, super cool. Sound like it was really easy to, for us, the easiest guests sometimes are the ones that will just almost take it in the stride and just do it almost for you. And I know that's really, like, this is by far the most I've ever spoke on my podcast, like, by far. So
Same, yeah.
It's the ones that will just take it and just run with it and just kind of not do all the hard work. But at the end of the day, apart from this episode, no one wants to hear from me. Who gives a shit? But, like, people want to hear from who the guest is. So
exactly.
Sound like you had that with her. And then on my own, God, I'm going to say Brett, actually. Brett Tippy's he was cool, man. Like, absolute honour to sit and speak with him. And then there's also the stuff that goes on out of the episode, I think.
Yeah.
So yes, he's been probably him and Ollie Wilkins and Martin Ashton, I think. But he's been fantastic ever since too, man. Like, I wouldn't call him a friend, but, like, we exchange messages all the time and stuff. Like, it's more than just a podcast guest.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice when people, when there's a bit of a bond there and you end up keeping in touch. It's super cool.
So there you go. All right. At Jay Fernley, Chris, would you rather fight 10... oh, hang on. Would you rather fight 10 Chris-sized Davies or 1 Davy-sized Chris?
We're not... I mean,
amazing.
I'm a bit of a short ass, but I'm not... You're not, like, super tall, are you? So
no.
I'd rather fight the 1 and not the 10, I reckon.
All right.
It simple.
Yeah. Hang on, I can't work it out. Yeah, I'd go for one of you as well, over 10.
Yeah, something like that. One versus 10 for me, yeah. If I'm going to pick a fight...
Thanks for the question, James. It's really good. Can't work it out, though. Hang on. We just got another one coming. All right. Rich Payne.
Uh-oh.
Oh, man. If you could interview one person, who would it be? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question.
And he's, like, submitting them now, which is really cool. So, yeah, if you could interview one person, who would it be?
I've had a few people have asked me this, so I'd love to have Petey on.
Yeah.
We talked about that. I just, the word legend is bounding around too much, but he's super cool. Yeah. really interesting guy, got a lot to say, and he's been through, massive changes in the sport.
Yeah,
he's been there for a long time. I think he'd have a lot of interesting stuff to say. I'd love to interview Rat Boy. Because I think there's a lot to him. I think he's a very interesting chap. I've got huge respect for what he did, stepping out because downhill wasn't right for him. And I just, every image you see of him now on a bike, he's got a huge grin on his face. He's pulling some ridiculous move with amazing style. Can't fault that. I think they're a bit cliche, like big names and a bit obvious. There must be more characters out there that I just don't necessarily know about yet. So I'd like to dig a bit deeper under the skin of the industry and find some of these other people with good stories. So I heard I don't know much about this, but Casey Brown apparently kind of grew up in the wild, like literally out there. So I think she's got quite an interesting story to tell. I'd like to have her on. So I think there's plenty of people out there that have got cool stories. I just need to go find them.
Definitely.
Yeah. What about you?
Wow. Rachel Atherton. Yeah, Rachel would be great, I think. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about Rachel out there at the minute.
Right.
So I'd like to have Rachel on. I want to have some Ryan Nyquist.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, Ryan Nyquist is definitely on the hit list.
That would be amazing.
And while we're on this subject, I want to really quick shout out Joe Bowman from Steel City Media. Although he's been mentioned quite a few times already, Joe's really helped me with this podcast.
Cool.
Obviously Joe's got a lot of contacts. He's just helped. So I wanted to say a quick thank you to Joe because he's been really, really helpful.
And I met him once or twice.
Right.
Well, I think once at Steel. What was Pete's film? Went back down at the premiere. He sorted us out some wristbands for the after party. Cool. So shout out to Joe for that.
Yeah,
because that
was a good guy, man.
And we bumped into him on location for his new movie.
Oh, right.
And had a little bit of a chat while they were looking at some cable cams they were trying to put up.
Right.
And he's just super nice guy.
Yeah.
So I get that, man. Yeah, fair play.
So I had to throw in a quick Bowman shout out.
Good on it.
Okay, what else we got? Would you rather eat 10 tins of raw baked beans or 10 raw eggs?
Baked beans, hands down.
Really?
Yeah,
I'd go raw eggs.
Would you?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I used to like that stuff back in the day when I was trying to get jacked.
Couldn't do it, man. Couldn't do it.
Okay, let's see what else we've got. Hang on, let me find the post again. Okay. Well, this is a good question. At Hayden Davies 74, long time listener. What's the best and worst things for you both since starting the podcast?
Interesting. I think I touched on the worst thing probably was the Tani episode, just because I had such big expectations for it and it didn't, life didn't make it easy for me. But like I said, still the second most popular download. And maybe we can get her on again and do it a bit more justice. And it'd be interesting to hear, actually, a couple of wins last year, pretty stellar season. But I think it's going to be a really interesting season for the girls coming back. Rachel, I assume, is going to be on good form. She's recovering from a collarbone injury over the winter.
Yep.
Miriam, Tani, Tracy,
Tracy's
all got confidence from wins. All
Miranda.
of them had a good season. Miranda taking the world champs. It's going to be good, right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a pretty interesting season. So maybe we can get Tani on again. So maybe that was the low light. Highlights. I don't know. It sounds cheesy, but every time I get a message from someone that's enjoying it is a highlight. That is cool. We've talked about it, but it's kind of surreal. It feels pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then just being at Fort William, actually, at the World Cup, in an event, with a load of the people that, I admire and I'm interested in, and meeting people and, getting a good reception and everyone being friendly. Because I was pretty nervous going up there. It was, like I said, it's out of my comfort zone. And,
right.
I've just had a great weekend. I was buzzing by the time I got home. I was pretty tired. It was a long drive, but...
Did you have digs or not?
Yeah.
Did you?
They were amazing.
I
had a single room. It was super cheap. It was about 35 quid a night. with
Okay.
breakfast.
Wow.
With breakfast.
But you book
man.
it 5 years in advance.
I was pretty late to the party as well. And it was good. It was like
Right.
in town, and it was all right. Like, it was a bit of a faff getting up to Fort William because obviously there's no parking once the racing kicks in,
Yeah.
unless you're exhibiting and
Yeah.
what have you. So I had a few long walks, but no, it was mint, and everyone was super friendly, and it was just nice to put faces to names.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
to hang out, and I'm definitely planning on going up again, 2018, and meeting some more people, and I don't know, maybe get creative and record some stuff up there. We'll see.
Do it.
Yeah.
For sure.
You going to be there?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Do
don't
it.
know. No plans
Road trip.
yet. I can't plan too far in advance ever. 2 weeks is usually my limit. So
That's fair enough. There's
yeah,
nothing
probably
wrong
will
with
be up there. I think there's going to be some changes with the business, so we might be doing something up there as well.
Cool.
It was cool to go up there and do the sax thing as well. That was
Yeah,
pretty
it's
cool,
nice.
obviously. So
And it's a good weekend, full stop. Like, the atmosphere is
it's a
amazing.
cool weekend. Like me and my missus went up. We had a bit of a holiday.
Nice.
So yeah, although we were working, we kind of weren't working in a way, you know what I mean? We were just hanging out. Like, we slept in the van, we slept by a lock somewhere, and went for a dip in the water at night and stuff. It was really nice.
It's a beautiful part
It's
of the world.
a beautiful
like,
part of the world. So yes, I would like to be there, and a few other World Cups. I think
Oh, cool.
next year I'd like to go do
Nice.
some of those. There's a few things in the works where I'll be at some of those. So
Cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I was tempted with trying to get to a few more, but money and time kind
yeah,
of
of course.
caught me out. But
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe we
Right,
can
now
sort
you're
something out.
unemployed, so
Yeah, I've got the
you
time.
have me hitchhiking up
Definitely
there.
got the time. Yeah, we'll see. So if any teams have got space on the floor,
You're like riding it.
then that would be lovely. Sweet. Yeah.
What was the question anyway? Best and worst.
Best and worst.
Yeah, so worst obviously is going to be the one that I lost. Rich Payne and Lou Buchanan, which is cool, man. It was such a good conversation, that. And the differences those guys have had throughout... hang on, we've got a guest.
Oh, hello.
It's okay. I'm okay.
Yeah, no,
I've
I'm
got to
good.
drive home, so
Cheers.
we're going to wrap up in a second and then we'll be out of here.
No, you're all right.
It's all right.
Thank you.
Cameo. Rich and Lou, losing that was a nightmare,
Yeah, man.
but they were awesome about it. We just recorded it again. So,
Yeah.
and the best thing, I'm going to agree with you, man. Like, the engagement side of it is really nice. Obviously, we're not doing this for any financial gain or anything like that. So just to hear from people every now and again that they're enjoying the podcast, and the fact that other people are listening is crazy to me. It's still crazy, but you know, the download figures are pretty healthy these days. So yeah, it's just cool, man. And thank you to everyone who does listen. If you listen to this, and
Yeah,
to
if
the
they've
Downtime listeners too.
If they've stuck this out for
Nice to
however
meet you.
long we've been chatting,
Yeah, if you're still here.
it'd be interesting
Hello?
actually. It'd be interesting to know, and I don't know if we could ever work this out, but it'd be interesting to know how many of the people that listen to you listen
Yeah.
to me and vice versa.
Yeah, it would be really interesting. We should do this more often.
Yeah. Well, we
Just
should.
hang out and have a chat, like
Yeah.
especially as the season gets going.
Yeah, man.
Maybe we could break down some races and you know.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm sure
Maybe
there's
figure something out.
sure that we could put something
But
together.
people should be working, you know, like we said at the beginning of this, I feel people who have a podcast should be working together more.
Yeah.
It's a friendly industry, you know.
Definitely.
There's no bad blood at all or anything
Yeah.
like that. For me, it's sitting having conversations and having a beer with people.
Yeah.
It's simple.
So if people have got to the end of this episode, then they can.
If you're still here,
add some comments on the
Yeah.
the social media posts
Yeah,
and
do
tell
it.
us what little things you'd like us to get together and talk about.
good
and,
idea.
And then we'll know who's listened to the end.
yeah, would be like two.
Awesome.
But yeah, man, it's been a blast.
Yeah, it's been a
appreciated,
pleasure.
much appreciated.
Yeah,
Great
no,
to finally
it's
sit
been
and
good.
chat. 'Cause although we met like briefly at Fort Bill, it was a quick hello, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
I
pretty
went off
much.
selling pants and
Yeah, I was swanning around with a beer in my hand trying to meet people, and you were selling pants.
trying to sell pants.
Job done. Cool. Well,
Cool.
Have an amazing Christmas.
Hey, you too, and everyone out there listening too.
Good New Year. Yeah, I hope everyone has a great break and hopefully gets out on the bikes and has a bit of a ride.
Yes.
Yeah. So hang on, let's do social media links. So
Oh, God.
If people aren't already following you, they clearly should be. But if they're not,
Yeah,
where
if
can
they're
they
not,
find you?
it's at the Hook It Podcast on Instagram, the Hook It Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Hook It Products. We don't really have it.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Sweet. And we're at Downtime Podcast on Instagram, at the Downtime Podcast on Facebook, and at Downtime Tweets on Twitter.
And a website.
I wish I could get all of those names to be the same, but it's virtually impossible. But anyway, if anyone out there is smart enough to work that out, get in touch.
Okay. Okay,
Cool.
so wrap.
Nice
High
one.
five.
Happy Christmas. Cheers, dude. Nice.
Dope.
All right, folks, there you have it. Episode 39 with Chris and myself. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you're still here at the end to hear this outro. Again, have a wonderful Christmas, everybody. Thank you ever so much for the support over the last year. It's been an absolute blast. Keep it real. Catch you after Christmas with episode number 40. Bosh.